This show is meant solely as an exercise in education for entrepreneurs. I think this will be incredibly useful to so many young people who want to start a restaurant.
This is a crash course in restauranting.
Okay guys, ready? Start? Hi guys, thank
Hello.
you for flying down to Bangalore
On a Friday night.
on a Friday night. I hope this is not the worst way to spend your Friday night. We'll try and make it as fun as we can. The intent of this show is very much not to make it about ourselves. So typically, none of our egos come into play or what we do too much. It's more focused on an entrepreneur who wants to start a restaurant. I think pretty much everybody wants to open one. At some point in their life, they've thought of it. I've thought of it. I've attempted it and failed a bunch of times. So we'll focus on that. And through the show, let's try and cover all that might be needed in opening a restaurant, and every point that we can cover, we'll try and approach. Let's start with introductions. Let's start with Pooja first. Tell us about you
Where do I start from?
from the beginning.
From the beginning. So I'm from Bombay. I grew up there.
Yeah.
I started baking when I was 6 years old with my aunt, and I just thought it was really beautiful, simple
Tell
ingredients.
us a bit about your parents as well.
My parents, so my dad ran his own business, which was importing ball bearings. And my mom was a housewife, and so she used to cook and bake a lot. So I used to bake with her.
Is there a lot of money in ball bearings? So what we're trying to do is a euphemized way of asking, was your dad wealthy?
He wasn't initially. He started off, he was kicked out from the family, so he had to start his own business. It took him a lot of time to kind of find his ground. So we actually grew up with, being very conservative and being told that you can't afford this and you can't do that. But they did the best that they could for us, right? We went to a good school. And then as we grew up, his business also did well. And then that kind of, we saw him, at least for me, that was a great sort of thing to see what you can build from scratch. And I always knew that if I had to do anything, it would never be a job. I would always do something of myself. So
And things got better while you were in high school or something?
things got better when I was in high school, and then I was lucky enough to go to study hospitality in Switzerland, followed by culinary school in Paris. And then there was a stop because then I wanted to go to Australia. I didn't want to come back. I just wanted to go everywhere. And they said, it's enough. So before I went to Paris, I kind of spoke to them and told them that this is my plan.
Wait. So you went to which school in Bombay?
Bombay Scottish.
And you were there up until what age?
10th standard. Then I went to Jai Hind college for
And
2
you
years.
continued baking from age 6 along the way?
Along the way, I was not a very good student, but I was very loved, and I was a teacher's pet because every Monday I was the kid who got brownies and cookies and chocolates to class. So everyone loved me because of that. And I just saw the joy that dessert got, for me, that was like the start of it. And back then there was not too much that you could do with, you couldn't be a chef, at least for a girl. That was unheard of.
What kind of brownies? What kind of brownies?
Did it help the
I
grades
was
is my question.
13, okay? They were normal chocolate brownies. But yeah, and then I actually thought I wanted to do law. So I joined law school because, being in the F&B world at that point for a girl was just like, are you really going to do this? And then 2 weeks into law school, I said, this is not for me. And I went to them and I said, I want to quit. And they said, what would you like to do? I said, own a cafe someday, get into hospitality. They said, okay, education is important. So I picked Switzerland as a school and spent 4 years there.
Worth it? Like going to Switzerland to study?
Oh, man. It was incredible.
Are there any options in India at all to learn baking, cooking?
Many. Especially baking now, yes. Back then, there weren't too many.
But do they compare with the college you went to?
I would say yes. In fact, Lavon in Bangalore is great. I mean, if it existed when I was younger, I would have gone there instead of going abroad.
Really? I go to Lavon almost every weekend to have avocado toast and coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
Breakfast. Really good place. Okay, so you went to Switzerland and then?
Then I went to Paris because in Switzerland, I worked through different departments, realized that the pastry kitchen is where the heart really is. And then I came back to them and told them I want to go to Paris. And my dad said, it's too expensive, not right now. And then I convinced them, I gave them a business plan and said, but I want to come back and open this thing and I want to do this and this and this. And they somehow believed me.
How expensive is it going to a cooking school or baking school in Switzerland?
Back then, this is now 16 years back. I think the school in Paris was like 40 lakhs.
A year.
Yeah.
And now it would be today?
Maybe 60, 75.
And that's your 4-year course. What is it called?
There was a diploma in French patisserie that was in Paris. And there was a degree in hospitality and international business in Switzerland.
Okay. And typically somebody who goes to a college like that and if they were to try and get a job, A, is it easy? And B, how much do they get paid?
So at least for all my... the interesting statistic is that about 50 to 60 people that go to hospitality school don't end up in the industry. They end up doing different jobs. Even pastry school, actually, not too many people actually have stayed back.
Why is that?
It's hard. It's extremely hard. And it's tough. And, you earn a lot more if you do like a sales job or something else.
Right.
So a lot of my colleagues, friends, got in with the international chain. So you get in with the Hyatt, Hilton, you do programs with them, travel, go to the US, do a management training program. And then you're with that organization for 10, 15 years.
Like if you were to go to college in Switzerland and come back, do you get paid more here?
I think the degree of an international quality one like she has will definitely give you a head up in the selection process. But I think hotels especially have a fairly regimented salary structure. So if you're coming in at a certain position, I don't think you're going to get significantly more just because you came out of a wonderful school like hers. You're probably going to get paid the same, but I think your career path, the expediency at the rate at which you'll grow could be faster. But I guess that's got more to do with communication.
In fact, when I came back, it was really hard for me to find a job. The reason I also started my own thing right away and didn't work anywhere, because now 14, 15 years ago, there weren't any standalone restaurants. There were literally like a couple of them, and then all the hotels usually just hire from the hotel schools that they have. So Taj will only hire from IHM, etc. So it was tough. Like I did a whole bunch of interviews, and then I was like, okay, just got to do this.
Okay, so Switzerland, you studied
hospitality,
a diploma which took how?
A degree for 4 years.
4 years,
yeah.
And then
Paris for a year.
And what did you study in Paris?
Diploma in French patisserie for 9 months, and then I worked in a chocolate shop for 3 months, which was amazing.
And then you came back to India, and then?
I came back to India in 2010 and 2009, and just saw that, there was, it actually felt like all the hotels and restaurants kind of had the same pastry chef, because you got like 5 desserts in everywhere you went. And there was like that blueberry cheesecake and, and I think Mocha was the only one, I have to say, that was differentiated.
Thank you for the plug, Pooja.
No, but I told you I made Rohan and I made that chocolate.
The vertigo?
Yeah.
Or the avalanche?
No, the avalanche.
The avalanche.
Mocha used to have this chocolate avalanche, was great. And so I fell in love with macaroons when I was in Paris. I came back, saw that everything was too similar, found that there was an opportunity here, decided to test it out. So started baking from my home kitchen. I was in every mall, every event, everything, and just got people to taste it. And I saw that people loved it. And 2009, 2010, got my first small 500 square foot kitchen. Started working with a team of 3. And then,
where was this?
In Lower Parel in Bombay. And slowly just, started. I had my little kiosk at Good Earth in Lower Parel, which was what really helped us, because it was the same exact target audience. And then slowly started doing caterings and parties. I was teaching a lot. So I was teaching baking. I enjoy doing that.
Is that a profession that pays well too, teaching?
It does.
Teaching at a college or like personally?
No, personally at our studio. So wanted to know what I learned in Paris, etc. So I looked at it, saw it as a good opportunity. And actually, initially the classes paid the bills more than the pastry, because everyone was like, okay, what are you going to teach us today? And I would just do like week-long sessions, and people would fly down from all over India and come and do these classes.
And you found them through social media?
No, back then I used to have a blog. This is like 13 years ago. So Instagram didn't exist and Facebook was just like, I used to have a blog, and then just through press. Yeah.
Very interesting. And then?
And then...
I'm going to nudge you to talk a little bit because I've heard you're shyer, and that's like an understatement.
She's not getting paid by the word. She's not getting paid by the word here.
Pooja is shy.
Yeah, apparently.
Right from the get-go, I think she was one of the most celebrated people in the industry.
Nice.
Thank you.
She's the boss lady of macaroons in India.
Boss
No,
lady.
she's just a boss lady.
Are you focusing on macaroons? Because
Yes,
everybody's
boss.
saying macaroon.
That's what we're known for.
But you do everything
We
else.
do everything. But 50% of our revenue comes from macarons.
And the cookies are damn good too.
Yeah. And we just started cookies. We're trying to scale and get into a longer shelf life. And
Wait, you started teaching?
I started
Got a 500 square feet. I'm trying to keep like a clear timeline.
Get them to talk.
Linear.
Yeah.
I started teaching, and then I opened a couple of stores in Bombay.
Okay. Wait, you had a 500 square feet kitchen.
For the longest
You started
time.
teaching, paid
That
for
was
the
at home?
kitchen.
No, in Low Parel.
Commercial
Separate
kitchen.
Commercial kitchen. Started teaching, opened the first store in Good Earth, in Raghuvanshi Mills, second kiosk in Palladium, which actually was really sweet. It was a little spot there that people
Atul
see.
Riya carved out for you.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah. It was crazy. I was 23 and they called me and they're like, walk in the mall and pick your spot.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was
that
like, I want
happened because
this.
they tried your macaroon
Yes,
and they loved
did.
it so much.
Yes, they did. And I'm still in Palladium now, 12 years later. We still have, but we have no
Star of
store.
Palladium.
Go
I
and
think
gorge.
it was just such a wonderful time. Like I was young. I was just working constantly. I didn't ever get time to look up and see what was happening. I didn't appreciate all the amazing things that were happening because you're so like focused on what you were doing. And then we opened our first cafe in Colaba in 2016, which was 2015, 2016. Which was like literally a piece of my heart. That was the dream. That was what I really wanted to do.
Cafe was coffee and...
Coffee, dessert, food. I had a friend from Paris who came down to do the savory part of it. I did the sweet.
So you started your Lower Parel, then you started another store, and then?
I started 4 stores and then the cafe.
Give me the year as well.
Good Earth, Palladium, Bandra, Oshiwara. It was all like 2013, 14, 15.
Is that a good way for people to start? Go to like an existing enterprise and collaborate, like maybe a Good Earth, for example?
Amazing.
For
Because
home
it was already-
cooks?
Yeah, because it's like a shop in shop. Your customers are already there. You don't have to spend anything to... And at that time, social media didn't exist. So marketing and acquisition was so different. Anyway, but it was great. And then the cafe was the big dream, which I started in Colaba, which was really like it was a piece of my heart. And then we opened another
It was
cafe.
a quintessential French cafe.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
What was it called?
Love 15 Cafe.
Why Love 15?
It's the 15th arrondissement in Paris where I lived, where my school was, where the Eiffel Tower is. So I loved living in Paris. It was home away from home. So when I moved back, I wanted people to have the same feeling when they walked into our stores or ate any of our products to feel like they were transported there. So
Okay, and then you started all this?
started all this. Everything was going great. Raised some money to expand, to scale from customers of Love 15 that became friends that really wanted to be a part of the growth journey. And then COVID happened, which was quite difficult. We had to shut down the cafes because it was just too challenging to keep them going.
Have you been able to reopen them?
No, I think I just pivoted and it said, I just looked at it from, more of a business lens and said, what is it that, I really want to do and how can I achieve scale? I do want to do a cafe someday again, maybe like a dessert cafe or a dessert bar. But for now, it's just focusing on how can we open in more cities? How can we get our cookies and macaroons and scale them and have them everywhere? So that's what we've been working on.
And personal life? I'm going to focus on you for a while. Okay?
I'm like,
It's
on the
interesting.
spot.
Listen, it's like we're getting insights that we would not get.
Pooja has exciting news to report.
Oh my God. What's my exciting
Is there a new
news?
boyfriend?
There is a new boyfriend.
What's his name?
I will not say.
Don't break the hearts of all the MasterChef viewers. Don't talk about it right now.
You didn't even cover the MasterChef thing.
I haven't covered many things. I was sitting here for 6 hours because I want your other guests to also speak.
Tell us a bit about MasterChef.
So I
We're going to come back to the boyfriend. I'll ask Riyaaz by then.
Oh, you met him,
What's his name? How did you meet him?
Raya.
Oh, wow.
Recently.
I'll tell you a funny story. Once I applied to Raya and they rejected me.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm not kidding. Actual truth.
Oh, how ago was this?
Like not long ago.
Is it?
Yeah. Let me not mention a time frame, but not long ago. So you want to tell us something else about it?
No, I will not say anything more because my parents will listen to this and watch.
They know enough by now. They're going to question you either way. So you might as well,
Yeah, but I think that she doesn't want them hearing it on a podcast, right?
Yeah. I've also written I'm going to divert it now. I've written 7
Those books, yeah.
Wow.
Amazing.
MasterChef?
And Masterchef is on right now. I have a podcast called No Sugar Coat, which basically I was really frustrated with everyone just saying that life is a piece of cake and life is a cakewalk. And I was like, it's really not. It's like hard and it's tough. And everyone just sees, the 1% of success, but the backstory is quite different. So I started having these conversations with people from the F&B world, and the new season is out soon. Riyaaz is on in this season.
Are you an outgoing person?
Wow, this podcast is really
It's
not about F&B. Where are we going
it's
with
a
this?
proper interrogation. There's a lamp
Where's
over our
that
heads.
tequila that I was
they're
promised?
like, बताओ
तेरे दोस्त कौन है?
किस से मिलती हो? हाँ? कहाँ आना
My
जाना
mom
है?
hasn't asked me so many
I
questions.
think the mom has gotten in touch with him.
Yeah, I'm like, what's
He's
going
the
on?
vessel through which the questions are being asked.
I
Yeah.
spoke to her.
Okay, I'll tell you something.
I did.
So before COVID, I was a very different person. I was a person who thought everyone was her best friend and I was close to everybody. And then I actually started seeing a leadership coach during COVID and changed a lot of the way I view myself, the way I view life.
Would you like
One
to
of
tell us
the-
more about that? Change yourself how?
I always felt very underconfident and with the finance and business part of Low 15 because I'm a creative person. The baking is great, marketing, all of that is great. But when it comes to finance, I feel like I was never, and for most girls, right, you're never spoken to and told this is how you should run your finances. This is what you mean. Like even all my friends now, either their husbands or their fathers invest their money. Not too many people, not too many girls actually doing that themselves. And so I always felt like I didn't know enough. And I had like an accountant who stole a lot of money from me, made me really, like it put me through quite a bit.
Is this something you would recommend when we went around looking at the participation of women in restaurant ownership? The number is abysmally low.
Yeah.
Which is uncanny because unlike other industries, women tend to be better cooks, right? I mean, historically and culturally, women have
Better
cooked.
managers,
Yeah.
especially multitasking.
But it's not really, at least now it's changing, and we see a lot of women in the kitchen as well, not only in the pastry kitchen, but also in the hot kitchen. But 15, 20 years ago, it was unheard of. It is a very like male dominated, the kitchen, a professional kitchen tends to be very like,
Why is that though?
it's long hours, it's tougher. Parents don't want their daughters to do that. Like it's a lot of cultural, I think, but it's
Very high stress.
No, but can we please not make it about being a boys' club? Because it's not. Okay? The fact remains that it's a cultural stigma. Right? People don't want
Their daughters.
But it's not. I mean, I'm friends with all. It's
baar
not a
mein kaam
boys' club.
karti is
But I
not
think that's
something they
changing.
want. No, I agree. But
changing.
the taboo is not because it's a boys' club. It is a boys' club because somebody needs to do that. But it's not because women tend to, if they get into the hospitality business, they tend to gravitate towards pastry,
They do.
marketing, and HR. Right? We are seeing some women now standing up and handling the hot kitchen, which is great. We're seeing more women mixologists coming up. The best Indian mixologist was a woman. So the glass ceilings are being broken. But it is also a cultural taboo.
A stockbroker,
Yeah.
a soldier, and a chef in a busy kitchen are three of the most stressful jobs in the world. Statistical fact. So it's a high stress environment, tends to be a lot of shouting, a little bit of that. The good thing is it's changing. Within our system, we're seeing some of our most successful restaurants, even overseas, being run entirely by a female head chef. And it works beautifully. There is something about the finesse that lady chefs are able to get. There's something about an empathetic nature that they're about to generate, a habitat and environment that is nicer, softer, more creative. It's just natural. I might be, I guess, making statements based on my own experience, but I genuinely feel that this is the effect that ladies have on any environment that they inhabit.
Right.
It's just the nature of the gender. I mean, I think they just have this, and then management. A detail-orientedness of our female chefs is markedly superior, I would say this. I've noticed this. The finesse, the beauty, the delicacy, it's just there.
Nice. What else changed? You said pre-COVID, post-COVID?
Yeah. The first thing my leadership coach made me do is make a list of 10 people in my life that were most important. Why? And why do they belong there? And that really, like, for me, moved things around. Because then it's like, these are the opinions that matter. And this is really what matters. Everything else is noise. And you can talk to 10 million people and do everything else, but this is where it's at.
Did you consciously cut out everyone else?
I didn't consciously cut out everyone, but everyone else became not as important as the 10 core, you know, because then this is...
Who is in that core?
I will not say that as well. You'll get me into trouble.
Why? This is not like a put you in trouble kind of thing. See, because we have never met before, I feel like the fastest way for me to get to know you is ask you things you wouldn't normally talk about.
Correct.
Because then I know you really quickly. And we can cut the get to know each other time by a wide margin. Would you like to name that coach? So if other people want...
Sure, her name is Anasuya Menon and she works out of Bombay.
So other people can reach out and take her help as well.
Yeah.
We did a lot of background research and, we know...
You know the basics.
This is not equitable. We don't know anything about you.
We don't know anything about you.
This is like a forensic audit.
It
I'm
is.
worried what all you know, what all kind of dirt you've pulled out on us.
Yeah.
The two of us.
I don't have any dirt.
Clean slate.
A lot. Okay, super. Thank you, Pooja, and sorry for pushing you a little bit.
Now you guys can do it.
It's not over yet. It's not over yet.
Barely
It's just the
scratched the
beginning.
surface.
Yeah. So we're going to scratch it a little bit and come back and scratch the same wound again after some time. So you get a break, some respite. So I know Zorawar a little bit.
Yes.
We met recently and hung out.
At a wonderful cafe.
At a wonderful cafe in Goa.
Yes.
Yeah. And I know a little
Run
bit...
by another fantastic female restaurateur.
Yeah, actually.
Nonetheless,
Yeah.
yes.
Atia.
Yes, Athiya.
Yeah. I think she's doing a great job with health food, right?
I thought the food was great.
Yeah.
You guys ordered so much food. I knew I just had lunch, but everything looked so good. I still dug in. It was really
But
good.
you're on a diet or something. You barely ate.
I'm trying my best, okay? But my diets I have a yo-yo life with diets. My diets are on and off and on and off. And I've figured out that what really works long run for me is simple portion control. Nothing is more sustainable than just limiting the amount of food that you eat. And then perhaps not eat after 6:37. Hard to do in our line of business. Because I think food, the love for food is the most noblest of all loves. It's God's gift to mankind. It literally is. It's the only thing, think about it, that you can do 3 times a day, every single day, and never get bored. There is another great thing He's given us, but I don't think we can do that 3 times a day.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, food is divine.
Food is just love. And my growing up in the kind of family that I did, food was the absolute centerpiece of our existence. I mean, my dadi was actually what got my father into it. My father has carved out a niche for himself. I'm so unbelievably proud of my father. I think he really brought about a renaissance for Indian food. And growing up in Jiggs Kalra's house was literally all about great food exposure from a very young age. I remember I had caviar at the age of 8 or 9. He made me eat something as peculiar as anchovies by hiding it in cream cheese when I was 10. Literally the kind of stuff that he would do because it was his passion. He lived for food. In fact, the country's first syndicated column on food at the Illustrated Weekly with Khushwant Singh was my dad's column.
Wow.
Started off as a journalist,
Right.
became a foodie, became a food writer, and then he did what he did, put Indian food on the
And where did you grow up?
Delhi. Grew up in Delhi.
Was your dad like a career? When did he start cooking? Like when did this become a profession for him? Journalism and then this?
Yes. So, he's written many books, and some of these books, especially Prashad, has become like a common stay at catering colleges and schools. It's literally used as a tool to make people learn cooking. He was never a chef. He was a journalist who simply had a God-given palate, and his palate was so sublime that he could work with the great chefs of India and improve recipes. But more than that, he was a historian. He devoted his life to documenting, researching, and then recording Indian food. Because unlike French or German or Japanese, any of these cuisines are fairly well documented. There are standardized recipes. In India, we had this Khansama culture, where these really good cooks and chefs want to hide recipes. So the recipes were never documented, and they were all over the place. Even
You
something.
have so much passion when you speak about your father. Has that relationship changed from when you were a kid to when you were a teenager to an adult to now? What works?
It from a combination of fear and awe to unbelievable respect somewhere in the middle to copious amounts of love towards the end of his life.
How old is he now?
Unfortunately, he passed on in 2019 after a 19-year battle with stroke. So he actually had a big stroke. By the way, a lot of the viewers will think stroke is related to the heart. It's got nothing to do with the heart. It's a brain infarct. And it left his left side paralyzed. In fact, he was the most frequent flyer in India. And overnight, he became bedridden for 19 years. Wow. And it was probably the worst week of my life. I was 22 years old. I was thrust into the wide world with all this responsibility and absolute sense of fear and ambiguity. I didn't know what was going to happen. My biggest fear was, is he going to live? Because I didn't know what a stroke was. Most of India didn't know what a stroke was. Many people today, and I've spent a lot of time, by the way, working on trying to spread the knowledge of what a stroke is, so that if it happens to your house, in your house, God forbid, you're able to take action.
This, by the way, is the biggest fear for me. Like,
right? Stroke,
if somebody were to define one fear I have in life, it's probably regretting not spending time with my father when I could have. And, beyond a certain point, it's not the same. The quality of the time spent is not the same because they're not as mobile. They're not able to do many of the things they might have done when they were younger. What part of your current journey is his journey that you're trying to complete?
Everything. Every single thing.
Is it the same recipes which are continuing?
They are the basis and the foundation of everything I've ever done. Whether it's modern, anything related to Indian, of course. I have other brands.
Everything, but you do burgers and everything,
Yeah,
right?
so obviously limited. But actually, technically, he has given me exposure to my palate. He's given exposure to my palate. So technically, even stuff that he did not engage in. He only did Indian food. He focused purely on Indian food. It was his love. His personal crusade was to put Indian food on the global palate. And he devoted 40 years of his life to it. The best way on earth to export your culture is through your food. And he did that. Every morning I wake up, I feel a baton is being passed on to me. So actually the real goal of our company is not to just open restaurants, but literally to put Indian food on the global palate permanently. Where I can't dream, I cannot help but dream of a day where maybe a decade from now or even earlier, every top city in the world, a diner or a tourist considers an Indian restaurant as one of the 3 dining destinations. And I think Indian food is the greatest cuisine on earth. It has the deepest culinary philosophy. It has a sophistication that is completely unparalleled. It has a variety that is, a simple state will have more vegetarian food variety than entire continents. That's the depth and the, sophistication and the sheer intellectual property that our ancestors left behind. And it's up to us, and it's literally our responsibility to make sure that the world recognizes it.
For a lot of people, this relationship, father-son, working in one business, is very complicated, right? Each is coming from a certain place of insecurity. Like one is trying to hold his prevalence, for the lack of a other word, and the other is trying to create his own identity. What do you think worked for you guys, if it worked, as a father and son working together, that you were able to manage the egos associated with a situation like this?
My father was a cusp between a Taurus and a Gemini, although I don't think he had any Gemini in him. I think he was all bull. So, very tough guy, very demanding person, and had a big ego. He also had a short temper. And maybe genetically, I got some of these aspects within me as well. वो कहते हैं कि एक कमान में दो तलवार नहीं रह सकती.
Are you like him?
I am in many ways. I think he's...
The little bit I know you, you sounded like you described him just now. Would you agree?
I genuinely think that a son, because of the awe in which he places his father, is going to be, heavily influenced by what their father does. And in some subconscious way, or maybe in some genetic way, I don't know, starts emulating them. So in some ways, I think it could be a subconscious reaction. In some ways, it could be an active learning. Like I saw him solve issues in a certain way. So I think, oh, wait a minute, as a child, this is the right way to do it. We were a fairly disciplined house. In some ways, I do emulate him, but I think growing up, because he got sick and was not as actively involved in the business as he would have liked to be, it worked. I have a feeling I would not have been able to work for him. So I think it's destiny that I was able to take the reins, and then I had this incredible figure behind me as my mentor and my support, watching my back. And the inherited goodwill that I've got from him has helped me immensely, and I make no bones about it. I don't think I would have had success as quickly had I not been Jiggs Kalra's son.
But I don't know, man. I think you did him proud very quickly. I think he was one of the first people. I remember Punjab Grill that's where I first met him, and I said that there's something here. There's a bright restauranting mind behind this product, because all the touch points beautifully covered. And at that point of time also, he had just started off on his mission to put Indian food back. It was till I think about 2000 and I think maybe 2005, Indian food was everybody's guilty pleasure. Nobody would admit to eating Indian food. They would only go to European restaurants. Nobody used to go out to Indian restaurants anymore.
It's not cool.
And then you came in and you changed all of that. And I think that everybody only said Zorawar. You never heard Zorawar Kalra. So you did good, and you made your dad proud.
There was
man.
a pan shot that was there.
Yeah. That was a creation.
Shot was,
The pan shot.
It became a rage.
That became a rage, I remember it.
So you went to MBA Boston.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that. MBA in what?
MBA in Information Systems, MIS. And
Why? Did you not know up until then that you're going to do this?
Always.
Then?
Probably pre-teen years. So maybe when I was 11, 12, I decided this is all I want to do. I was in awe of my father. I saw his lifestyle. I saw the way he was given respect. He was on TV. By the way, the first TV show in India ever was my father's show.
While you were in awe of your father,
yeah.
did the ego of a young teenager also want to supersede the father? While you loved your father, did you want to lose the name Kalra and be called Zorawar?
To be honest, never.
Psychology, big fan.
To be honest,
never?
Not even for a second would I ever have. I always thought, how can I harness his goodwill and how can I learn from him?
Yeah.
And I was fine him being the head, but my being part of the journey. To be honest, even though that's not I would never work. If I were to work for anybody in this world, it would probably be only for my father. I don't have a bent of mind like Pooja just said. She said that she doesn't see herself working for anyone.
But Zorawar, I know you. You're a very opinionated, strong-headed person who believes in a certain thing and will fight for it. So, working with your dad, there must have been points of contradiction every day. What went on in your head at that point?
So, firstly, I was very clear that this is all I want to do. I wanted to be in the food space. I used to love hotels, but I realized very soon that my passion is really for food, not really for building these big structures and running rooms. And the idea and the sole purpose of pursuing the MBA was to arm myself with the knowledge and the know-how to be able to run a business at scale. And I was always going to come back and be in the restaurant business. There was simply no other way around. In fact, my father was responsible for building some of the most famous restaurants.
Yeah.
Bukhara,
Yeah.
Dum Pukht. I mean, these are institutional restaurants.
Also now Punjab Grills, Farzi, Bowtie, Masala Library, Louis Burger, Papaya. So many.
Yeah.
Who's the roll club?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. But those are still, came about later. But he did not used to own those. And I used to think, it would be great if I could own the Bukhara
Most of
brand
these
name.
started beyond his time?
All of these started after he was fully. So Punjab Grill was the first one that I started while he was still hale and hearty in a way. Although Farzi Cafe also came about, that time he was already 10 years into the stroke. But even before I got into the business, he'd built, so at one point in time, out of the 10 top grossing restaurants of India, 5 were made by one man. That included things like Great Kebab Factory, Dum Pukht, Bukhara, Singh Sahab, so many restaurants he'd made.
What worked?
His passion.
Food, marketing, branding,
A bit of both.
location. Like if you had to point at one factor that really worked at that time, what
For
was it?
him. He was very good at rallying the entire media around his creation. And he was in that sense able to, in those days when the only thing that worked, there was not even mobile phone, was the newspaper. And he had complete command of the newspaper. But then I think beyond that, it was the product. Till today, the most successful restaurant in India is Bukhara. Hasn't changed its menu.
I love that place, by the way.
The dal, man.
Yeah. The dal and even that huge roti they give
Family
you.
naan.
So good.
Yeah.
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 Very
It's
hard to
probably
pull off.
like 3,000 calories a meal though, right?
Oh, it could be even more. Don't go for dinner if you want to sleep that night.
Right.
And eventually, all Indians, all Delhiites, just love going there for dinner. It's packed. It's packed for lunch too. It's one of my favorite restaurants, and but I would never go there for a dinner.
Yeah.
But
And-
it's a show-off restaurant.
And lassi, right?
That lassi is like 2,000 calories by itself.
The only restaurant where the MD of ITC gets involved if the menu needs to
Yeah,
change.
yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he never gets
And the menu
involved because they haven't
doesn't
changed it.
They can't even move a sofa. Like they can't move one of the stools. They can't do that either. It's
It's
highly regimented.
And personal lives are out? I've
Touch
heard,
wood.
I don't know if I'm right or wrong. Actually, I've seen that men like yourself, good looking restaurant owners and bar owners are very popular with women. No?
Where have I been living? She's not gonna.
Pooja knows, but she won't say.
We're peers. We're her peers. So she's gonna be careful.
Wait, are you married?
Yes. Married, 2 kids.
How long have you been married?
2000 and, I better not get this wrong, 2006, 31st July, no, 30th July was the marriage, 31st was the reception. 30th July.
Well done.
Well done.
Yeah, man. Phew. That was, so the marriage now is stronger than it's ever been. And I don't ever talk about it, but I don't know how you've been able to get this out of me. Boss, kudos to you. This mild, wonderful, soft nature in which you ask questions is making me open up.
dangerous,
I
man.
would not.
It didn't work on her.
Everything though I told you.
What about your siblings?
I have one brother. Good relationship. He lives in the US. He's now just started opening restaurants of his own.
Riyaaz, you had a black belt in karate.
No way. I had a brown belt.
It says black on Google.
Yeah. Don't read that stuff.
What happened? Was it restaurants?
No, I think somebody broke my nose. Yeah. A kid half my size who broke my nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my nose and my ego both took a beating.
Did you give up on it?
No, I think it fell away. I used to play.
The nose?
And you guys, this is not like one-on-one conversation. This is all 4 of us talking to each other. So feel free to butt in.
He's a good buddy of mine. Very
Yeah,
good buddy. Old
exactly.
friend, yeah.
Tell us something about him that he would not like to tell us.
By the way, I'm half Parsi, so
बहुत सारी
so my
चीजें।
nose is.
Correct. A certain shape. A certain.
Yeah, no, that shape went away with that.
एक चीज बताइए जो ये खुद नहीं बताएंगे.
He is a softie at heart, but he does not like to, and I mean that in a positive, very positive manner. He is a empathetic leader. I have not seen a confrontational side of his yet, and I think that's a very good boss to have. But he's a soft leader at heart. I'm talking about leader. I'm not talking about confrontational from outside perspective. He's a successful businessman. He cannot be that unless he knows how to look after his interests. So that's the one thing I think.
What do you think is, we can cut this part out if you like, sir. If you had because maybe somebody's watching this who can do something about it, 3 regulations that need to change, top of the pie, what would you say?
Why do I need a police permission to sell a sandwich? I mean, why do I need to get a character certificate from police station to say I'm worthy of selling a glass of beer or to be able to sell a sandwich? What business does police have in my affairs? Right? I could have a big mega store and see 10 times the volume of the amount of people coming to a restaurant. Why does restaurants need to have police license, for example? Why
Police
do we?
license, is it?
Yeah, police license. We need a police NOC for everything that we do. So if you want a food license, we have to go get a police clearance first, then they will give it to you. You want a fire NOC, you have to go to the police, then they'll give it to you. You want an excise license, you need a police NOC, then they'll give it to you.
I'm guessing this is like a layer which adds a cost as well.
Cost and unnecessary, right?
Time.
Like, what is the logic? It's easy to get a gun at home. You require fewer character certificates and fewer licenses and fewer checks to get a gun at home than to get a liquor license or to sell a sandwich. And I think it's just absolutely unnecessary. And so by the way, just to put things in perspective, the restaurant industry overall is the second highest employer of human capital in India after agriculture. 10 million people directly employed. This is only going to grow. Compounded annually, we're growing at around 21%, which means every 3.5 odd years, you're doubling in size. So the number of people employed will double in size. So it's a very important industry. What is the purpose of of dissuading people from entering the field that is doing a noble cause? Sustenance, you're giving food, it's a necessity.
Technically, you just need 3 licenses, right? You need tax, you need health to make sure that you're going to make sure that people are, and you need safety. Right? You need to make sure that it's fire compliant. You need to make sure that it's designed in a manner which is not hazardous to the environment, to the customers. What other licenses would you need? And why do you even need a license, for example? But yeah, we're still grappling with 36. I think after many years of struggle, I think we've been able to get it from 36 to 32. And,
Wow.
Yeah.
Kudos. Hey.
So police, number 1, then police license after that?
So again, why do you need a police license? Why is it that we are regulated with our timings? Right? I mean, the fact that why is it again? It's an issue. Like you can only serve from this time to this time, and then you cannot serve after that or before that. Whereas,
is there a rule before that as well?
Yeah.
So
of course.
I thought only in the night, beyond 1 a.m. to 2 a.m.
But then I get shut at 1 and open up at 2 a.m. No, that doesn't
Right.
work. So
Hotels are allowed, by the way.
yeah,
Hotels are allowed 24-hour license.
The excise licenses, again, crazy, very highly regulated, very, very expensive. It's still today, restaurants are almost treated like a rich man's indulgence, which is to be ignored rather than the infrastructure provider that restaurants are. Right? We're literally participating in place building. We are growing communities. We are bringing people together. We're not just about food and drink, but we're also about culture. We double up as public spaces, which India suffers from the lack of in a big way. So we have the added responsibility of public spaces where people can commune with each other. We also cultural spaces where, you can't go and perform in big halls, but, every artist, every musician, every spoken word artist has got their break first in a restaurant. So there are many things that restaurants bring to the table, but unfortunately it's not seen in a favorable light right now.
So you have a Parsi mother.
Yes.
Grew up in Bombay?
Grew up, born and inbred in Bombay.
What is that? Like I've heard so much about Parsis and inbreeding and how the community is dying. Like, why is that?
Why is the community dying?
Yeah.
They just don't want to get married. I think they're wizened up. No. I think.
You married, Riyaaz?
Sorry?
You're married?
I'm married. 2 kids.
How long have you been married?
10 years.
Parsi girl?
No.
So you're part of the problem.
I am part of the problem. But we got excommunicated from, we have, it is actually nothing to do with religion, but it's more cultural. So I think in the 8th century, when the first boatload of Parsis came in and they landed near Udwara in Gujarat, they made a promise to the king then that they will never intermingle, because the king said, hey, we don't want you, intermingling with, and there's a very famous story about how they brought a glass full of milk and he said, do you see any more space in this? And the Parsi asked for some sugar and he put that in and said, see, there's still space for sweet people in your country.
Nice story.
And so that is the legend. Always go with the legend.
What year was this?
In the 8th century, 700 something. Yeah. That was the first.
1200 years ago.
Yeah, that's when the Parsis came in, the Zoroastrians.
Yeah.
And 100 years ago, that's when the Iranis came in, the Iruns. So all the Irani surnames are recent immigrants, and they're completely different from the Parsis who've been in India for a very long time, imbibed a lot of the cultures, but have also not mingled the way other cultures have, right? Because again, so if you marry outside your religion, you're excommunicated immediately. Your children do not become so, and that is again from your maternal side. From paternal side, the wife doesn't become Zoroastrian, but your children can become Zoroastrian. So
That's
it's
very counterintuitive to other religions, which want to propagate.
I think that this is again. I think it's become more of a cultural thing, and I think that true in Parsi style, they do keep their word. So I think almost 1,000 years later, they're still keeping the word.
But a very wealthy community.
An altruistic community, yes. Don't ask where they got the wealth. I'm sure there's enough literature out there.
Altruistic how? They donate, they give away.
Altruistic, yes. They, in a sense that, there's a very famous saying that you never see a Parsi beggar or even a Sikh beggar. Because like the Sikhs, the community really reaches out and, offers a helping hand. And there's lots of charitable initiatives done by the big Parsi business homes. And they make sure that they provide good quality housing. They reach out and help and make sure that they are above poverty levels at all points of time.
They take care of their own.
They do take care of their own. They do take care of a lot of other people as well. You've seen...
No, I meant we like to claim the Parsis. We love them. We are proud of them. We say, wherever they were born. They're 50. They're originally, I think I've heard under 50,000. Yeah, something like that.
And today?
Endangered,
50,000 today.
50,000.
Oh wow! Really?
The non-excommunicado ones.
Even
I'm
my
talking John
community
Wick now.
people say is going down. We're Konkanis, something called GSBs. We all need to sit together and work out strategies. There is an element of self-deprecation in every 5 lines that you say. It's kind of cool.
Is it?
Yeah, it gives you edge.
I think I'm going to increase it to 7.
Yeah. So you were a DJ at Parsi weddings.
At Parsi weddings, Catholic weddings, I grew up in a place called Baikala in Bombay, where we were surrounded by a large part was a Catholic community, and some of it was because of my, my mother's side. I grew up more as a Parsi than.
Are you religious, Riyaaz?
Not at all.
Right. Are you Zorawar?
Yes, I am.
Pooja?
Spiritual.
Okay.
0.
Okay, so you were a DJ, and this was like a part-time gig, college, making a buck?
Yeah, I enjoy it. I used to show up with cassettes, like a bag full of cassettes, all rewound and kept to the song that you want, because there was no CDs at that point of time. It was all, and you had to have mixed tapes, and you go with one tape recorder and another tape recorder, and you have to press play.
Did you use the LPs?
Did you mix it? No. I couldn't afford LPs. No. Cassettes was I could pirate them and play whatever I wanted. We used to play Cliff Richards and Shaking Stevens and Chubby Checker, and it was...
Riyaaz seems like the original cool guy, right? Yeah. Like he must have been the popular guy in college. Yeah. No? How many girlfriends did you have in college?
I guess my fair share. And a couple of other people's fair share.
At least he's open about it.
And your father had a restaurant as well?
Yes, he did.
Berries at Church Gate.
Berries, where it all started from.
Parsi food?
No. In my Berries was a restaurant started by a gentleman called Mr. Berry. And that's how it gets its name. It's actually Berries.
Okay.
But it became Berries. Berry or Bedi.
BERI.
Yeah, Berry. Yeah.
So you grew up in Bombay, went to school?
I went to school. We're talking about the restaurant now? Or?
No, childhood.
I'm
Okay,
loving
we're
this.
going back.
Childhood. This is like a movie, right?
I'm loving this.
It gives you so much insight into the person so
does.
quickly.
Yeah, I think we came. There was a little bit of financial strain. I was very keen on earning my own money at a very early age. So my father's side comes from a community which are called the Khojas or the Aga Khanis, or
course.
the Ismailis, or the Prince Aga Khan, the followers of that. So it's a certain sect amongst the sect. We, as Khojas, we have maintained a lot of our previous practices, right? And I think that's beautiful. So we have, my father has a Sai Baba mandir. Again, this is not something that most Muslims do. We used to go to Shirdi pretty often. Every Holi on Holika, we used to have a fire that we used to burn. During Diwali, we used to do Chopra Pujan, which is, you come down and you kind of write in a very Khoja way. By the way, that's very interesting. What you wrote on the book was all about you. We spoke about Aga Khan, and we spoke about Kuber Jino Bhandar, and we spoke about Lakshmi, and so it was this kind of a hybrid kind of a religion, which I guess in many ways reflects what India is
Pragmatic.
all about, right? I mean, it's to have a knowledge and to have an appreciation for such a diverse and spiritually diverse nation that we are. I think I'm quite blessed to have that upbringing.
A lot of your restaurants I've been to. I've been to Mocha. There's a smokehouse right down the road which makes a great grilled chicken. And they have some fish. What is it called?
That memorable, huh?
It's good. It's good. Social is good. Slink in Bardo is good. Boss Burger I haven't tried. Prithvi Cafe. Tell us a bit about that.
So Prithvi Cafe is actually a very, very special place. It's part of Prithvi Theatre. And it was set up by Shashi Kapoor in...
The actor.
The actor, in memory of his father, Prithvi Raj Kapoor. That's why it's called Prithvi Theatre. And now run by his children, Kunal Kapoor and Sanjana Kapoor, who literally are keeping, the flag flying for the drama and the plays and that kind of cultural fabric. I think Prithvi is a very important part of the cultural fabric of Mumbai, at least. And I think Prithvi Cafe was first started by ad man Prahlad Kakkar and made it very famous. And it was this
He made a very famous restaurant.
Yeah.
The name is really cool.
Papa Pancho. He had one more before that. I think he was running the tea
Although
house.
it's in the news for all the wrong reasons. recently.
Yeah, and that
Shut down because of a rat or something.
he got shut down because he was being hustled. But come to that later. Yeah, so it was this place where Nasruddin Shah, you can see him on the odd day, Om Puri, Macaroon Deshpande sitting with a pack of Foursquare, reading scripts, screaming and shouting, emoting, and every now and then a flautist would come in with a flute and just start playing in a corner, and a tabla player would come and just do their own
What kind of
little
theatre
rehearsal.
is it? Is it like that typical?
It's a small little heartfelt little space. I don't think it seats more than 300 people.
Best cold coffee.
Is Bollywood a big part of your lives in Bombay?
Mine, yes. Yours as well.
Because he was just mentioning some actors and musicians.
Oh no.
I see like a pattern in music and you, which we're going to get to. Like going from DJ to studying entertainment management in UCLA
Oh,
to still, your bars still kind of like revolve around the music that is played there, right?
I don't think it's about the music. I mean, I love music. Everybody does. Who doesn't love music, right? It's like saying everybody loves food, everybody loves music, everybody likes to have a good time.
Some people don't, huh?
Music?
Not as much, yeah.
I love music.
So do I, but I know people who
Yeah,
are
there are
not like...
varying levels of
Bad people.
love for
We
music.
don't want to
I
hang
guess.
out with them. Right?
Yeah.
Are they in your 10?
No.
Good.
Well,
So what's the connection with music? Nothing?
I wouldn't say nothing. I think that restaurants are a multi-sensory experience, right? And many times, the takeoff point for a restaurant could be music. So I would go to my architects, Ayaz, and I would say, okay, this is like, acid jazz. What kind of place would you want to listen to acid jazz in? And that for me would work as a really good kind of an entry point into the tonality of the restaurant. It doesn't really matter. It's just that the tone, as Zorawar very famously always says, that he feels like a conductor, and he's like, making sure that all the various elements, which and could be food, it could be the plates, it could be the weight of the glass in your hand, it could be the sights, smells, sounds, all this goes to complete the experience that you have in a restaurant.
If you had to pick one thing that works for Slink and Bardo, is it, am I pronouncing it right?
Yes, absolutely.
Is it music, location, food?
Bombay.
Okay, I think now that we're done with the intros, we'll get into beginning our podcast.
The food?
We can eat and talk, okay? Like, this is very
I'll
casual.
finish.
Food is good, huh?
Yummy.
At the core of it all, restaurants are also like a real estate space, right?
That's what McDonald's always claimed to be.
How much you can monetize which area. So if you can tomorrow start monetizing walls by displaying brands or
Art.
selling stuff, would you do
Putting
it?
art,
Would you do it?
of course, would love to do that.
Why aren't you doing it already?
We are doing in some cases. For example, in some of our bars, some key locations for logos are kept for some beverage companies. So a Budweiser, we have a link with Budweiser. We put their logos up, they pay us money for it. I don't put cigarettes, but their ITC, cigarette company, would take a space on your bar. You can't sell it, as far as I know, but you can put it over there and they'll pay you like a decent amount of money. So you can. And then, of course, there are some restaurants where you can actually buy the crockery and the cutlery as well. And art. Art is lying on the walls.
Yeah.
London Arts Club does
I've
that.
seen that in some places.
London Arts Club does that.
You know the food you guys are eating, which was your favorite dish? Each one. Then I'll tell you why.
I like the keema.
Yeah.
Same.
Came out for me.
Where's the keema from?
Ooh.
Very good.
Keema pav. Where's the prawn from?
This is from Prawn, I don't know, not mine. This is Farzi Cafe.
And the prawn is from?
Mm.
So we're eating your food.
Good.
You guys are proper evil people.
This is in-depth
It's
stuff.
Good thing I got dessert, so I
insidious
know where it's from.
Level 10 shit.
We got a few options there too. Just to trick everybody. Sorry, one second. Talk amongst yourself.
Giving us the taste of our own medicine, huh?
We want to create a template of how to start a restaurant and the intricacies of it. Before that, we'll answer a bunch of questions about the industry, trends, what is growing, what is not, all of that.
Yeah. But just to come back to the question you had asked earlier, right? We are in the real estate space. Sometimes people come to us for real estate for the price of a cup of coffee, right? But if you see where media is going, right? You're scrolling and you have exactly 1 second to capture somebody's attention to be a thumb stopper, right? And hoardings, you just, out of home hoardings, you're whizzing by, you either see it or you don't see it. In a restaurant, you're sitting for about an hour and a half. You have undivided attention. There is a place where actual behavior modification can happen, right? You can really, in a more sensory way, introduce products to customers. I don't see why, like one day why a restaurant can't be like what a television channel is, right? I mean, give the food for free, the advertising pays for it. People are doing it all over. Why not, right? Especially at some point of time, it could become a model. We're trying a little bit. We're doing few little experiments. There are lots of places, I think, that restaurants have the capability to, have certain influence over your behavior or influence you in a certain way. And it doesn't necessarily have to be on the walls. It doesn't necessarily have to be commerce. But there are various ways that you can have an impact and actually work with other brands, which is quite cool, especially when you're, in the business of culture.
Imagine if you're charging for the Wi-Fi, but the food is free. It's like one of those bars, tapas bars in Chupitos bars, style bars in Spain, where you can go and there are tons of them, shots and liquor oriented. You pay for the drinks and the food is given for free. You could give, for example, a tech company could figure out to sell a service for free and give you free coffee and free food.
Is that the way forward, you think, for restaurants? Like, I see in Dubai restaurants...
Not fully.
One way.
One way.
That's a way.
I think...
Socials is becoming a workplace during the day, right?
Co-working, yeah.
Social always been a co-working space.
But do you think because you're using so much real estate inventory only at a certain time of the day, the logical way forward would be to monetize the other times for different things?
Yeah. So I think you're paying rent for 24 hours, right?
Yeah.
But you use it for basically 12 to 14 at max. You're paying salaries for the month. You're able to utilize at max, I think, 8 hours a day. I think restaurants are the final bastion of hope for human offline social engagement.
That's too much responsibility.
And it is the final bastion of hope, because I really think the digital world is overcoming everything else. So I think the restaurants play a key role in binding families. It's a huge responsibility, as Riyaaz said. But I think it is also, we're in the business of giving happiness. It's a huge responsibility because people are coming to you to celebrate life's greatest moments. To, a centenary, a marriage proposal, your
breakup.
Breakup, a date night with your first love. So I really think, and I really hope, and I don't have a dystopian view of the future of restaurants. I have a very positive view. And once we get into the math of what India can offer, you'll realize that we have not even scratched the surface yet for restauranting or delivery in India yet.
So, I have a thesis for businesses which are a place of passion, like restaurant or Bollywood, or like things that you consider a passion which can also be a profession. The odds of success, while we are trying to make this entire show for somebody who wants to start a restaurant, to help them have all the details at hand and help them increase the odds of success, whenever you are attempting a vocation of passion, more often than not, the odds are stacked against you, because there are many other people who are attempting it not with a monetary gain in mind. Because it is cool to have a restaurant. A lot of people want to retire to a bar on the beach. I know so many of my friends who knew nothing about restaurants but attempted it because it was some childhood passion or dream of theirs. So this is something to really bear in mind. So the first thing I think we should really arrive at is, across the board, odds of a restaurant being successful. What do you think is an accurate number? 10%? 20%?
Zorawar knows this by heart.
So is the highest morbidity rate business in the world. 90% around that of restaurants fail within the first year, and around 96% within 18 months. And the biggest reason, you won't believe, is not necessarily lack of passion or getting into it for glamorous reasons. It's undercapitalization. People have money to build a restaurant, but they don't plan for the gestation, right? And the gestation is what can kill you. It can demotivate you. It can make the quality become bad because you don't have money to pay the bills. So you start compromising, and unfortunately, that's just the nature. I think this is a passion play. Restaurants in general, it's not a 9 to 5. It's a lifestyle choice. You have to get into it for the right reasons. It cannot be an extension of your drawing room. If that's what you're trying to do, invest half the amount of money and make your drawing room better.
I think a lot of people get in because, and I use this, we were talking about ball bearings earlier, and a lot of the people who do get into the restaurant industry, like, made billions selling ball bearings, but nobody knows who you are, You open up a restaurant.
Glamour.
No, it's not just glamour. So for some it's glamour, for some it's calling card, For some, it is a networking opportunity, right? For some, it is a childhood cherished dream. For some, it is a leg up in society, and for some, it is genuine passion, right? It's genuine. There are various reasons why people do get into the restaurant industry. मेरा बेटा अमेरिका पढ़ रहा है, वो वापस नहीं आना चाहता, बेटा आप उसको रेस्टोरेंट करेगा तो ही वापस आएगा.
सबसे बड़ा रीजन भूल गए आप. शादी करानी है बच्चे की
शादी करानी है, सेटल करना है
नॉर्थ इंडिया. So if the boy is doing nothing,
काम पे लगाना है, बेटे को काम पे लगाना.
But what we're agreeing on broadly is the odds of success for a restaurant 2-year runway is something like 3-4%.
2 years, 4%, you could say. There are obviously, outliers, but in general, you would say under 10% would be the number where you would not have success.
So unless you
would
bring
have
a
success on the
specific USP that you can bring to the table, 90% you'll fail. Don't attempt it.
I think there's a secret sauce, and that secret sauce is the last thing that Riyaaz mentioned, which is passion. If you're passionate about it, you'll figure it out. And
But wouldn't all 100 attempting it think they're passionate in their own way?
I don't think that higher percentage get into it with passion.
No.
I think few get into it with passion. If you get into your chance, again, I'm not saying that you're going to 100% succeed. Your chances of failure reduce drastically.
Define passion from this lens.
It's the only thing you can see yourself doing. It's something that you would do for free and then figure out a way to make money from it. I think that's passion.
Junoon, madness. Something that doesn't let you sleep at night. An itch that needs to be scratched.
But how long can passion also keep you going, right? Like, I'll take my example. I started this when I was 23, extremely passionate, but 14 years, I've had my ups and downs of this is hard work, this is, this is like awful, this is great, I love it, do I hate it? So it's never really like that, right?
No, it's
passion
never.
also keeps fluctuating.
Every day, I wake up in the morning, I'm like, this is it. Why am I doing this?
So many times I've met you over the last 10
now.
years and,
And every day you walk into a restaurant, you see people having a great time and you're like, damn, I love my job. So it's a constantly conflicted conscience, I think.
Eating out patterns in India. People in India eat out on average 1 time a week. They spend $3. People in the US eat out on average 4 to 5 times a week. In China, it's twice a week. But in China and US, they spend a significantly higher amount of money. In China, the average meal is $10. In US, is $20. India is $3. Why do you think that is? Is it cultural? Why do people go out as little? Is it because you can have a chef at home? We live in joint families. There is always food at home.
Stigma of wasting food. घर पे एक प्लेट कम लगाना बोलना पड़ता है 1 हफ्ते एडवांस में कि आज मैं नहीं खाना खाना. I think that we are eating out and we're growing very, very quickly. We were eating out 4 times a month in, I think in 2014 when we did our first report, Zorawar. And I think the 2019 report was the previous, just before the
No, even later,
COVID.
no?
We had come up to 8 times a month, and in urban area we were up to about 16 times a month. But give you an example, Singapore eats out 52 times a month.
Yeah.
Right?
I read that and I saw that the
that's like
valuations of
twice a
restaurant
day.
chains in
Headroom.
Singapore is ridiculous.
Yeah.
They're $1 billion restaurant companies.
But they're still not valued at the same value that the companies in India are valued.
Yeah.
If you increase the price of a dish in Smokehouse Deli from 400 rupees to 600 rupees, you rebrand your menu that way. Will people perceive you to be at a higher price point, hence higher quality, and you get more footfall?
No, let me look, India is a very value conscious market. It's not a price sensitive market, it's a value sensitive market.
Why is premiumization working?
So premiumization, I'll tell you what premiumization. So we saw in Delhi took some progressive steps. They brought the excise duty down on liquor. Right. What we saw was that people, so the prices of the liquor went down in bars. We reduced the prices, followed suit, passed on the benefit to the customers. The customers didn't drink more of their liquor. They upgraded to the next one. You understand? So where they were drinking a red label, they didn't say, okay, now, I would typically have two red labels. Now I will have 3. They said, I will have black label. Because now that's the same amount of money that I'm spending. Right? So that's where I see premiumization happening, that people are wanting to actually get into a better quality product, or what they perceive to be a better quality product. We're not getting into the merits of the product. But yes, that is where premiumization is happening, that people want to be consuming better. They want to be consuming, they want to go to brands. They want to go to brands that they trust, and they go to brands where they feel that it'll enhance their image, prestige, or their quality of life, their
So what
self-worth.
segment is, if Riyaaz was a young man, 20 years old, starting...
What do you mean if?
Younger man. If you were starting off at 20, what would you start? One option, you have 1 crore rupee budget. What would you start?
A band.
But you denied the music connection. Somehow I've been like coming back to that, right? There's something in music there. Okay, but what kind of restaurant?
What kind of restaurant would I start up all over again?
1. Highest odds of success, not passion.
Social. I would do that because for me, I feel that in this country is the best product market fit that we are seeing. Right? We are an extremely young audience. We are an audience which believes in the gig economy, in the freelance economy. People are looking for places to work from. They are, they're being social while they work, and they're working while they're being social. The lines are blurring. We are looking for spaces to hang out where we can, do some work, meet people. We're looking for want of a better word, we're looking for accessible WeWorks, and we're looking for accessible Soho houses. And I think that's the role that social really
And you could
lines are
set
playing.
up one in 1 crore.
No, I could put equity, and the rest I would get in credit.
Is it easy to get credit when you're starting a restaurant?
Working capital.
I don't
negative
think so.
business.
It's like I said, it's such a high failure rate business that to go to a bank and expect them to give you have a better chance at jumping off an aircraft and surviving than being a first-time restaurateur and going to a bank and asking for money to
It's
open
not that
a
morbid.
new restaurant.
So you partner with somebody
We're
who
all
has
first-time
experience,
restaurateurs, right?
and then you partner with somebody who has relevant experience, and then
Yeah.
you're able to raise.
I think, like I said, I think initially it's always better to be a little careful and frugal. Don't go ahead and try and open a 5,000 square foot, 200-seater restaurant. Maybe start out today with a cloud kitchen or a small cafe.
Why are you wasting the time in a cloud kitchen?
You don't have to.
Nobody's going to make money.
I love cloud kitchens.
Yeah, because you're using your existing infrastructure.
No, I'm not.
Yeah,
actually, I have
Nobody's
not.
making money in
I
cloud
have-
kitchen business.
Well, actually, I beg to differ on that. But we actually...
Talk about cloud kitchen. a
Cloud
bit
kitchens,
more.
yeah.
I like
so we don't use any of our existing infrastructure at all.
course you
Not even one restaurant. Not even a single restaurant.
no,
even the
that I was
warehouses.
telling you,
I'm on the
you
oath, yeah.
cannot lie.
So yeah, so exactly. So you'll be surprised that we actually don't use it on purpose, because at some point in time, we might segregate the two businesses, and as a result, we cannot have that blurring of lines. So we do not use existing
Burger comes
infrastructure.
from-
Separate cloud kitchens. Absolutely separate cloud kitchens.
I see Domino's Pizza really working. I see Italian food starting to work in India. Like it worked for garments when we sold Western garment with Western models, like it did for Page and a bunch of different companies. Selling a foreign product in India like a burger is working?
I think there's a
Is it growing faster than a biryani, for example?
No, so it's never going to, consumption patterns are never going to be there, but you have to understand that the competition and the number of players in that category are far more in biryani as opposed to burger. So if you were to open a biryani brand, say in Southern India, Bangalore, you have great local players that are these institutions.
And it transitions well to tier 2, tier 3?
It transitions well. You might have to tweak the pricing. Don't think you can sell a 800 rupee burger in...
Are there 800 rupee burgers in Louis Burger?
There's one. There's one. It's 3%, 4% of our sale, so it doesn't sell much. But it's
What
there
is
because...
the cost of good typically on a burger, like cost of producing the burger?
So we're running at around about 30 to 31%.
I would
Plus
say,
packaging
is that
cost.
fair for all kind of food? You should run at about 30%?
The rule of thumb says 30%, but you can be lower. Chinese food I've seen, you can come up with slightly lower. Indian food, simply because the quantity of chicken and the muscle protein that you have to use, typically higher in price. And then, of course, Italian food would be higher as well, because the cheeses you have to import, perhaps. But you're getting great alternatives. Every alternative is available in India.
So Louis Burger, Boss Burger competition?
In a sense, yes.
Same markets?
Yeah,
Similar market.
Same price point?
No,
I think Louis is higher.
Louis higher.
Would good flippin also be a part of this?
Yeah, good flipping and
Good
Louis would
flipping,
be
I think-
exact.
No, I think good
combination.
flipping it would be more on the Boss Burger price point. Is slightly
No, I
lower,
think it's higher.
slightly lower also.
I think it's higher.
If I were to build a burger brand, there is Louis, there is Boss.
There's something called Burger Sing as well, right?
Yeah. It's very Indianized burgers.
Indianized burgers.
It's
Indianized
doing
When
pretty
there's
well, huh?
all of this, how do I create a burger brand?
Well, you have to figure out the bun. Figure out the bun.
Is that the key?
Don't
Not
buy
the
a
protein?
bun.
Not the
Don't buy a
sauce,
bun.
not the protein?
No, it's a sum of its parts. It cannot, obviously, I'm making a simplistic joke out of it. You gotta get the basics right. I think, again, I'm getting into details. The meat to bun ratio or the vegetable patty to bun ratio is incredibly important. If you have a little dice or a little, cutlet size patty in the middle and the bun is falling all over, people are not gonna see value. Indians are
You like big
extremely
buns or
value
you like
conscious.
small buns?
So I think a burger brand.
I think he meant something else. But
I know.
No,
I know what he's meaning.
No. So we talk burger sizes are very important, right? So
Yeah,
because
bun sizes
bun
also.
sizes
Bun
because
sizes are important.
Very important.
okay, when you get
So typically a McDonald's burger would be much smaller burger
Yeah. The
compared
patty is
to.
smaller.
It won't be filling.
It
So,
won't. It'd be a much smaller burger than what you would get at a Boss Burger or at a Louis Burger.
so Louis Burger is on its way. We should try it. And so the thing is that you could actually spend. So if a McDonald's burger costs $120, you'll actually need two to feel full. Whereas at $250, a Louis Burger cheeseburger would be more filling comparatively.
And how do you decide where to open a burger joint or where to open a patisserie, for example? Is there, I come from a different world, right? Like, is there an API of restaurants together where you can gather data of what is the demographic, what kind of client is buying, how much are they spending? Is this data available?
This data is available with a lot
real
of
estate
these proper
consultants.
Real estate consultants,
And they charge you money for it.
There are enough companies now which are have very detailed demographic breakups on each.
Can you give us some
region.
examples? Just
I will send you a link. I don't know the
KPM.
name.
So I'll tell you. JLL
is
has given
there,
us
but I'm saying
data,
that
but
much
the
more,
data
much
is
more focused. So JLL.
I
do a
don't even
mapping.
think that data is really that up to date or accurate. I think it's been extrapolated from a finite base of information. I would not take a business decision based purely on a document given to me by a JLL. I would go with almost in a old-fashioned way. I would go with my gut instinct for a physical space. With a cloud kitchen, obviously, it's geography is history, right? With a cloud kitchen, geography is history. You're virtual, so you don't really need to care about where you are. You need to be in general area. So if you know this area, CBD has a large demand of burgers, you'd open somewhere, but you don't need to be on Church Street. You could be in one.
But how
back
do you
corner.
know CBD has a large demand of burgers? Because
Zomato and Swiggy Zindabad?
do they share data?
Yes, of demand. Yes,
They
so
share?
they will help you. They will say.
They will tell you
they will
where
tell you.
if they feel that there's a particular demand in a particular region which is underserved
Yeah.
by that particular kind of cuisine, then they will kind of come in and they will inform you.
I also know of a new coffee chain that's trying to expand and grow, and their mandate for real estate is just open next to a Starbucks.
Starbucks. Are you talking about Blue Tokai?
No.
Third wave.
I'm an investor.
No, actually, what is interesting is I personally feel that we tend to run and we tend to go after the same locations and everybody wants to go there. It is the locations which are underserved, which has the aspiration, which has the spending power, are the ones which will actually land up doing much better for you because you get them at better rentals.
Yeah.
You get a way more, your pipeline is much bigger because those people are really, really underserved. There's so many areas in everywhere which are completely underserved, but typical, market intelligence will tell you, okay, these are the areas to go. I think that if you kind of use the demographic data that is available, right? You know what your customer looks like. You know areas where they are, and they are in abundance, and there are no other restaurants to service them. Those are really, really good areas to go and set up shop.
So if I don't have the means to afford this data through JLL or KPMG or real estate guys, can I go sit in the competition and write down how many people are coming?
Absolutely.
Does
That's
that
the
work?
best way to do it. That is actually the best way to do it. In fact, markets change. They're dynamic in nature.
Right.
So a great market across the street could soon become irrelevant because a highway is being constructed across the street, or another cooler mall is coming up. This happened to me many times where I've been
GK2?
part of a
Defense
restaurant.
Colony?
Yeah.
Do malls work?
Malls are
Sake.
doing fairly well, but here's the point. I've done a lot of research on this. Malls are good for incidental footfall, but cost prohibitive. And your margins in a standalone restaurant with lower incidental footfall, your margins are going to be better than in a mall. A mall has a lot of hidden things. Marketing cost, parking cost, CAM, the common area maintenance, obviously the rent, and the rent is on super area. So if you have 500 square feet, depending on efficiency, you could be paying for as much as for 1,000 square feet, although you're occupying 500 square foot carpet. So it is good from a brand building perspective, and it can make money. But your EBITDA margins, which is the real margin that you look at, would perhaps be better served, not always, but in many cases, in standalone sites, and even better. Here's the beauty of India. In tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Farzi Cafe is now in about 15 cities of India, and we're actually seeing some of our best performing stores to be coming out of tier 2 and tier 3. They're beating Bombay and Delhi. Bangalore is the best example, but it's obviously a metro tier 1 city. But why does every new brand, especially MNC, open its first store in Bangalore? Reasons are simple. It has got metro level purchasing power and a super sophisticated clientele with people from all over the country that are living in Bangalore. They don't go home and cook. They don't even have gas connections, most probably. They go out and enjoy it.
Do you have data around how much people eat out city-wise?
Yeah.
It is there at a fairly granular level.
So if it's across the nation 4 times a month or 1 time.
8 times a month now. 8 times
Twice
month.
a week in
of
urban
course,
India.
Cities.
In urban India, it's 16 times.
Yeah,
if the
in
real
cities
est-
is 16.
If the real estate cost of the city is higher and they have smaller homes, they go out to eat more. So I'm guessing Bombay will be the highest.
Not necessarily.
Actually, it's not.
No?
Bombay has a high cost of living, and there's still a whole bunch of different demographics involved. For us, in our system, Bombay is not the number 1 city for revenue per square foot. So the real metric you should look at is revenue per square foot. So if you've got a 10,000 square foot restaurant, you're doing 1 crore a month. It's different from doing 80 lakhs from a 5,000 square foot, right? There's more efficiency in the smaller one. So from that perspective, I think for us, revenue per square foot is coming highest in other cities, not even Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Kolkata. And it just shows the depth that this country has. I mean, just look at the numbers. 1 in 3 people today is either middle class or wealthier today. By 2030, that number is going to become 1 in 2. A country with 1.5 billion means 750 million people will be middle class and able to afford the products that we're selling.
When does that change? Let's say,
When is that ship going to come home, bro?
yeah.
Where is that ship going to dock?
2030.
They say
In 2010, that was 2022.
They say density of restaurants in India is about 10% of China and 2% of
Exactly
US.
10%.
Yeah.
Exactly 10%.
10%,
You look at any chain which is here, the numbers, you take that, multiply that by 10 or 11, that many restaurants are there
In China.
And China consumption
Sometimes even more than
patterns
that.
changed.
And real estate
Yeah.
prices in China are far more affordable, spending power parity is higher. So we have our challenges. Real estate prices in India are ridiculous. Right? The entire market, I don't understand the market, where the US
no logic.
percentages
no
are
logic.
so high, yields are so low.
But I would assume the rental market is not so bad.
No, it's
No, it's-
terrible. So I'll give you an example. I have a
4-5%
restaurant.
commercial?
No.
6%?
Commercial? So the deal that they
I'm
signed with
looking
you
at
is
office spaces. 6%?
yield you're talking about. You're talking about the yield to the
Then,
owner?
yeah.
Yeah, 4%, even 4%.
Yeah.
4%
Residential will be 3%.
before
Yeah.
tax.
But that's because the price is so high.
And your interest component is
Yeah.
8%. So
Most
how is that?
expensive.
How is that making any sense? Rent, don't buy. Right?
Real estate rent for commercial activities such as restaurants is out of whack. There is a market called Galleria in Gurgaon, where I live. That restaurant's per square foot cost, a restaurant, if you take 500 square foot, is more than Connaught Place, more than Bandra, more than Kolaba, more than Khan Market. Khan Market was the most expensive, and it's in Gurgaon. There are restaurants that have signed within India that have a higher rent per square foot than my restaurant in the US or Canada or in Trafalgar Square in England. Can you imagine a restaurant in Delhi or Bombay that has cost you more per square foot than London, whereas...
But are you paying that rent because it's worth it and you're getting that much footfall? Because I'm guessing it's a supply-demand market, right? If nobody can make money out of that much real estate, people would not be paying that
Yeah.
much.
So firstly, let me be very clear. Margins in overseas restaurants are either equal or a bit higher. We had a session recently at one of the summits where it was me and two other restaurateurs who had restaurants overseas, and all of them came to the conclusion that margins overseas can be either equal or higher, and the main culprit is real estate occupancy cost. And the lease, they're signing leases for six years. They're making you invest up to $1 million in a restaurant, and the thing will only last for 6 years. There's no logic. Whereas overseas, it's 15 to 20 years.
Right. And so I'll give you my use case, okay? So I had a thesis around restaurants and I started investing in a bunch of them. Broadly, my thesis was if I were to pick up many independent restaurants, what is the word you used, Riya? CDR.
Casual dining restaurants.
Casual
CDR.
dining restaurants. If I were to aggregate a bunch of them, bring them together, create one entity which has a few hundred of them, my valuation that I get from the equity markets when I go to raise money will be a bridge or an arbitrage between the discrepancy of the 10 multiple that CDR is getting now and the 100 multiple that QSR is getting. Do you think that makes sense?
Only if your potential investor will see scale in each of those entities that you've wrapped up into one.
But you're
large
saying
thing.
there is scale because you're transitioning well to tier 2, tier 3.
You could look at it from that perspective. But if a sophisticated investor would look at it, they would probably say that as a whole, as sum of a whole, you definitely have this large scale. And as a result, in every city, you could open each one of these 10 brands and have 10 restaurants per city. However, I think a more sophisticated investor will look at the scalability of each of those 10 brands.
Right.
This is a model that could work. Again, I think if you've got 10 brands that are in the CDR space and affordable and they have scale potential,
Like
you could have many brands. This is what we do. We have many brands.
Phoenix is doing?
They are buying some.
So basically, the
I think we are
house
doing
of
that,
brands
right?
is a story. See, the point is, 85% of the processes are the same for restauranting, right? You negotiating the right lease, getting the licenses, hiring, training, setting up management information systems, HR, licensing, all are the same. What changes is what's on the wall and what's on the menu, right? That's 15% of the business. 85% is all the other stuff. So that 15% is just the details. But we are seeing that India is dining out a lot more. They're going to CDRs a lot more. The market is 4 times as big, is growing at 20%, whereas QSRs have kind of hit a road bump. The only problem is that, of course, because we are seeing people now premiumizing. Right? We are seeing people wanting a better quality of life, a better quality of lifestyle. The problem is there have not been any precedents and there have been too many dead bodies in the CDR space. And there have been quite a few success stories in the QSR space, right? So the entire value chain now is singing this one song. It's going to take one guy to come along, change the rules, and then everything else will change.
I think one person has already come. I think Barbecue Nation is doing a damn good job of now getting multiples
But
that
again,
are
they're
matching.
not a house of brands, not Zorawar. They are a
I'm talking
one-trick
about
pony.
I'm talking about a CDR matching up to the scale potential of a QSR. For example, they also follow that process of choosing back and beyond kind of locations, but they have such brand pull that they're able to do crazy numbers. And they're trading at many, I know stock market goes up and down.
They're listed, so I
They're
track them
listed,
quite
and they are trading at many multiples of sale. And obviously, at one point in time, they were beating even the likes of QSR, certain QSRs on the stock market. That changes every day. So don't.
Pooja, for your category, let's say macaroons, desserts, all of that, do you see scope in restaurants being built around that? Or do you think the cafe model is more the way to go?
Restaurants focusing on desserts?
Like there are often times you would go to a restaurant. I go to certain places where I love the dessert and I eat the food because I can eat this at the end.
What is the dessert contribution in your restaurants? I don't think it's very high.
3.5%.
It's not very high.
But that's my restaurant.
Can that change?
It's different, right?
I mean, look, we had a cafe. I wouldn't call it a full-fledged restaurant, but it was a cafe. But 30% of our revenue did come from desserts, 30% came from food, and the rest came from beverages.
Coffee.
Coffee and tea.
Coffee is really growing,
Coffee
right?
is really growing.
Is that something you would consider?
It's a whole different. I think coffee and dessert is, it's a marriage that's made in heaven. I would love to do it. No?
Yes.
Karne ka hai.
Do you think this whole trend, at least in the premium segment, if premiumization is working, like Riyaaz said, and the premium segment will grow faster, this health, not eating sugar, staying away from dessert, do you think those things will become significantly bigger issues for someone like you?
100%.
And
And
how
that's something I'm actively working on as well. And I'm seeing that from the last 13 years to today. I don't know who it was, but they told me that sugar is going to be the next tobacco.
Sugar already
It
is the
is.
next
No,
tobacco.
don't say that.
Jamie Oliver
But
said
listen, here's the thing.
should be taxed like
Nobody
But-
stopped smoking cigarettes and nobody stopped eating dessert. Right? And that is what you have to remember.
But yeah, I am
Because
working on
it's-
something that is going to be...
It's a very low base right now. The health conscious people.
Yeah, yeah.
When people are going out, they're going out to indulge.
I also feel like people want to think that they're eating healthier. No one really...
Yeah.
wants
Can
to.
that ever truly work? Like, can you replace sugar with monk fruit or stevia?
You can.
And taste that good?
That's what we are attempting to do. Hopefully we get there by January.
So what is the healthier alternative? If I am a young...
I mean, it depends
pastry?
on what your, everyone has a difference. So for him, it could be gluten, for example. For somebody else, it could be sugar.
If I want to replace sugar with a healthier option which tastes just as good, in your opinion, what is it today?
I mean, see, all of them will spike your glucose levels, right? Whether you take jaggery or you take...
No, he's talking about...
Replacement.
Replacement. No, so I'm saying
So
that...
not
so how do you-
glucose, non-glucose,
No. But how-
non-glucose sweeteners. I think
So
that's what
jaggery would not be an option then, you're saying?
Yeah.
Stevia?
Okay.
No?
monk fruit
I
is
would
the new
say
super product.
monk fruit is great. I would use a lot of
Why
natural
no to
sugars.
stevia? Like you had like a expression of disgust when I said
It's
that.
got really bad aftertaste.
Like metallic, right?
Yeah, it's not very
Erythritol?
good.
There's another problem with stevia. The new study, the stabilizer used in stevia, the way we eat it, is supposed to increase chances of stroke significantly.
But I would use like natural
There's
sugars, right?
lots
Like
of-
fruit, dates, things that are more...
But that's tested glucose original, sweetie. It's
But
not
now-
a sugar replacement. You're just
Just-
changing the sauce and the mineral content of the
Yeah,
glucose.
but then your
rather
options
than-
are all chemicals then.
Only monk fruit, I think. Monk
For
fruit
example,
extract.
it's a question of taste, right? If you see how many people have transitioned from Coke to Diet Coke seamlessly, and yes,
But people love the
the
taste of
first
Diet Coke.
4-5 times you're like, what is this taste? But once you get into that kind of
Yeah.
flavor, right? Then you stop noticing. Right? So it just becomes a thing. Like I'm going to drink Diet Coke now. If I get Coke and I drink Coke, I'm like, what the hell is this?
I don't even like it anymore.
No, that's yeah. But the point
I
is that
can't have Coke
that
anymore.
whole company is transitioned on this premise.
What do you think the big opportunity is there in your space? If somebody were to be passionate about pastries like you are.
I would say for me, especially because this is something that I struggle with a lot as well, and I think that for me, I still when I don't want to eat sugar, I still want to eat something that tastes quite similar. But I'm happier to eat something that is natural sugar, like so if it's sweetened with bananas or dates or apples, it just feels like it's giving me a lot more than using plain white sugar. So I think that the opportunity is how can you make a cleaner, indulgence, which is not...
Okay, so the QSR industry in US, for example, is 50%. In China is 20%. In Korea is 30%
Of that market.
of that market.
Okay.
In India is just 3% today.
In UK, you're saying it's 50% of the
US.
Yeah, US, yes.
US, I read this number that as much as 60% of overall consumption in the country is QSR.
Really?
Of food.
No, just consumption. Overall consumption.
Across the GDP.
Yeah.
Across the GDP?
Across the consumption spectre. And see, most of the money people spend is on food, right? Like even in India,
Disposable
consumption
income, yeah.
between groceries and eating out and delivery and all of this is a large part of consumption.
I think in the US, the rent will probably be the biggest, but you're right. I think in terms of gross disposable income spend, food would be highest. They don't cook at home.
Yeah.
They eat out more often than
labor
anybody except the
arbitrage.
Singaporeans.
So which way do you think India will go? India is at 3%. Do you think we'll go the China way, where there seems to be a balance of dine-in, QSR, all of that working, but QSR has only grown to 20% and stopped there. I think that's a cultural difference. You think India is more going to mimic China than America because culturally we are similar?
My vote goes to China. Look, in America, fast food works because it's labor arbitrage. You go to a supermarket, you buy the ingredients, you chop it, you cook it, you stir it, you plate it, you wash the dishes after that. It's going to cost you more than going to a QSR, ordering that burger, that fry, that shake. It's going to be cheaper, faster, quicker. And so in India, it's not that yet. It's still cheaper to make food at home. It's the labor arbitrage is still not considered that important, right? There's always going to be somebody at home who's happy to cook for you, who's going to happily clean the dishes for you. So that price arbitrage is not there. So the value seekers will continue.
Is that
to go
what
to
could
the
actually
market.
help your industry eventually?
I
If
think-
cost of labor goes up?
It will go up because you see, right now, 1 in 4 employable people are Indians in the world. 1 out of 6.5 is Indian. 1 out of 4 in the world, and somewhere the demand and supply is going to equalize. We are anyway seeing a lot of strain on the labor department. Canada has opened up its gateways, they're taking in as many people. The Middle East is taking in, shiploads of people from India. And I'm talking only about in the hospitality sector. So
That'll make it more expensive for you. in
it
India.
will get. So this demand supply, gap is going to
How has the cost
eventually
of
start
labor
getting-
gone up for you in your restaurants? Let's say over the last 5 years.
I think what has happened is you want to be south of 15% when it comes to your labor cost. That is a broad level thumb rule.
So 30% cost of goods.
35% COGS, right? You got 15% labor, 15% rental, 15% incidentals. You want to make 20 to 25%.
Marketing?
About 3% or 4%.
Is that all?
Yeah.
What is working in marketing now? I see Pooja is very active on social media, right? What percentage of your clientele is coming in through social media and what is working? I'm guessing performance marketing in the manner that worked a few years ago with Facebook and Instagram ads and Google ads. I don't think that works as well anymore, right?
No. So I think for me, social media just started off as something that I was just doing because it felt very natural. The phone was like the extension of my hand. I was in the kitchen baking a cake.
You are a natural. You are a natural with that.
I mean, reels I count. So anyway, so I would take
But
a
that's
pic.
working more, right? Videos are working
Yes, now,
significantly
yeah,
more than
yeah,
pictures.
Yeah.
So what works? Give me 2 hacks. Why
What
does
works
Pooja have
now?
7 million followers where others do not?
What works now, I don't know.
What worked for you?
Being in the right place at the right time.
Describe that. I knew that was going to come back and bite me. But
You sow, you reap.
elaborate.
There's one thing I've gotten from you also. I'll use it later. I think it was a time when Instagram wasn't as big as it is today. It was more organic. And I just feel that I was in a space where I had a lot of customers who were very popular and who are very popular and well known and have millions and millions of followers. And I think it was also me sharing my whole experience about building Glow 15. I've always been honest, open,
Did that
transparent.
help your personal story?
Yes, 100%. Because people related to it, right? People love a story. They're like, okay,
So
I
it
know
was
what
as
she
much
is.
about you as it was about the picture of the food you were putting up.
Exactly. And I would be honest.
And what
about
made
it.
your story interesting?
I don't know. I think it was just a girl at that age
Real.
doing something different, following her passion. Like a lot of people feel like, like.
Did it come across on screen, your passion? Like when you spoke about food? Is that something that really worked?
I think so. I like to believe so. And for me, it was that, right? So 2 things that worked was 1 being in the right place at the right time, and 2 just I think honestly I don't know.
I think you're cutting yourself a little short, I think her content quality was
I
one of
didn't.
the
I
key
didn't even
things.
know that was content, right? Like I didn't know. I was just doing it because I loved doing it and I enjoyed doing it. I didn't realize
what
that
vibe
was
with people.
creating content, and I was just like, I'm documenting my life and I'm talking about what a great day I had in the kitchen, someone who's working with me, what's happening, this dinner, stuff like that, and it just became like a window into my life.
Is there any agency you used, anyone that helped you creating this content that other people can use?
No, I just feel that I feel when you're authentic about your story and you do it yourself, it's a lot. It hits a lot deeper than if someone else is creating it for you. Even if some agency is building that content for you, I think it should be driven. The narrative should be driven by you.
That supersedes quality of video.
100%. And things that we see that right now, right? Like things that we post just randomly, reels which are just like a half-eaten something, will do so much better than something that is orchestrated and created and it's a production. I want to ask you a question, actually.
Finally.
Sure.
What do you look at when you said you've invested in certain restaurants and cafes and things? What is it that you look at?
Financials first, at reasonable valuations. I'm a stock market guy, right? Like I look at public markets very closely. So when I saw QSR chains getting the multiple that they are, while they are just franchisee models replicating a foreign product in necessarily not an innovative way, I don't think they deserve that valuation. I don't think dine-in restaurants deserve the low valuation they are getting as well, because to be fair to them, they're creating a more nuanced product than a QSR chain.
But again, I'll tell you something. It's, India is a market without precedent, right? It is unique in many ways. We spoke about consistency. The whole point I think a lot of QSRs have tom-tom consistency, perhaps because they don't want to tell you what is going into the patty or how much cheese is in the sauce, right? That is not something that you want it to be available for public consumption. That's something you got. And then you put the garb of consistency on it. The fact remains is that flavor profiles change every 100 kilometers. Right? In Delhi, we like red chili spice.
Yeah.
Right? In Maharashtra, we like our green chilies. But we like our food little khatta meetha. We
And a
like a
QSR
little
can never do that.
sarness. In Gujarat, we like it
They
a
won't
little
get the
sweet.
approvals.
In the south of India, we like black pepper spice. Right?
Yeah.
And these are the flavors that we like. And this is our biryanis. Is so the Karnataka biryani is different from the Tamil biryani is different from the Hyderabad. Like you go to the mirchi ka salan and then you used to a Bombay biryani with aloo, a Calcutta biryani with aloo. So flavors change, right?
Yeah.
We are a country which eats differently. We share things. We don't order appetizer, main course, our own dessert.
Yeah.
We like to pick. We like food fresh.
Yeah.
Right? We like
This
it.
is in a way your case against QSR.
It's not my case against QSR. It's my case for India. Right?
For casual
I think that
dining
you
and
have
dine-in
to
restaurants.
create products for India. Find the new India. And
You're
India
saying you have
which
to
is
create a
comfortable.
product which is more nuanced than a QSR.
A product which understands India more culturally.
Yeah.
Right? You can't force fit. And even all the QSRs have come in, have at some point of time what they call innovation, have had to Indianize, right? And they're calling it innovation. But the fact remains that culturally we like to share things, right? We like roti bhi hamare yahan ek karke aati hai, So do we like to see a sandwich which has been lying there in the fridge for 4 hours? Necessarily we abhor it, right? If a roti fulka comes, one will come, then another will come, then another will come. We like our food really piping hot, kadak. The coffee that you get, we don't like that coffee. So many times if you're doing gourmet coffee, you don't want to burn it. You don't take it over 90 degrees. But if you give an Indian a coffee which is less than 100, it's going to send back here thandi hai. Right? So I'm not saying good, bad, ugly, whatever. I'm not judging. But this is how we consume. This is how we like our food.
So to anyone building for India, the nuanced India that you spoke about, you're saying hit a micro market, don't build anything generic that you think the entire country will like.
No, I'm saying that one will delight in all manifestations of this thing, right? We, by nature, when we think about food, we think about variety. right?
But give me a definitive tip that me as a 20-year-old trying to start a restaurant, I get that India is nuanced. I get that people in South, West, East, North all like different things. If I were to go about building a restaurant business, how do I utilize that?
See, definitely novelty will get you the attention, but comfort will get you the repeat business. Right? And I think that's a significant difference between your cafe business and the restaurant business. Because in restaurants, we're looking for novelty, we're looking for elevation, we're looking for experience. In a cafe, we're looking for community, we're looking for convenience, we're looking for comfort. And their frequency as a use case is way higher. Like if today I love his food, I think one of some of the best Indian restaurants in India and in the world are from his table. He gives best quality service, best quality food, best quality value. I treat like a king. But tomorrow, I'm going to be like, कल ही तो खाया था यार, कुछ और खाते हैं. Chinese खाते हैं. आज Korean खाते हैं. आज कुछ और खाते हैं. It varies. So you will seek variety. But in a cafe, you're not going to say कल ही तो Starbucks गया था. या आज शाम को ये तो coffee पी थी. It's something that you want to kind of reach out for automatically. So there's a distinction between a cafe and a restaurant in that sense. And there'll always be a distinction between, are you trying to sell a novel product, which people is a new thing? Is it a custard-filled muffin? Or am I giving you a motichur laddu which is going to last forever? Or am I taking a motichur laddu and making it into caviar, like what Zorawar does? And I think there's a market for it all because we seek it by nature. We seek it. We are comfortable with 4 mobile phone providers. We are comfortable with 20 shirt makers. We are comfortable with 30 watch makers. But when it comes to food, we want thousands and thousands of restaurants. And that's the way it is.
Interesting. So the unorganized sector in India is disproportionately large compared to the US, China, Europe. If we were to, I don't have the exact numbers for this.
65 for 35.
65 unorganized.
65 unorganized.
And we are assuming the industry put together is between $50 to $100 billion. We couldn't find the exact number because it's hard to calculate.
So
4,000
about
crores?
yeah, so about 40 to 50, about 50 to 55. 50 billion is what.
Billion, yeah.
So,
And it's growing compounded annually at 20%, 21%.
CDR.
so what is the big opportunity when unorganized transitions to organized?
I think
Which will happen inevitably.
Organized is growing at a much faster rate than unorganized is. Unorganized is also growing, but organized is growing faster. We are seeing movement towards brands, established brands, reputed brands. People are gravitating towards it. But again, what is a brand, right? In Bombay, Sardar Pav Bhaji started off with, Thela. Now is a brand, right? Kirti College Vada Pav is still roadside food, but is also a brand. Right?
Sorry.
So I think that people are wanting to move towards brands because they don't want to risk that investment that they're doing in a bad quality product.
Yeah, it's just questions to remind me. Sorry, please continue.
That's it. I finished my piece.
And do you think quality is a big factor playing into why people go for a brand? Because people are unsure of what food there might be?
I think it plays a massive role in the perception of quality is perhaps one major parameter that you have to tick off before you choose which place to patronize. Convenience is, I think, perhaps an equally big factor. How easily you can get to it, how easily you can park there, what kind of options does it serve? Can my whole family be served? See, Indians eat out in families. We don't just go husband and wife. We go with husband, wife, kids, sometimes grandparents, sometimes parents. So they want China. That's why multi-cuisine does so well in India. Dada Dadi can eat
Can that ever
butter
truly
chicken.
work, Zorawar? Like if I had a restaurant where I do Chinese, tandoori, Japanese, Indian and something else, can I do justice to any of that?
You can't. So here's the thing. The market has proven that it works. So financially, it's
Right
going to do
now,
very
that's
well.
all that's working.
I get annoyed each time I see that.
You
know?
can't have a specialty restaurant
You
that
can.
excels in everything. No, in the same kitchen, if you got, you can't have really the very best of Indian food, and then you suddenly have the very best of Japanese food.
Because you have one chef, right?
No.
One main
There
chef?
are departments. There are sections within every kitchen. Every section has its own
But
chef.
if I'm making garam masala here, can I be making sushi on the side? And well.
People are doing it. People are doing
well.
it.
Can they do
I-
it well?
It can be done to a competent level. I don't think it can be done as well as, say, a restaurant specializing in sushi. Will you get as good as sushi at, for example, you believe it or not, Haldiram's gives sushi. Okay? And will it be as good as, say, a papaya or a yaocha or, sorry, yaocha doesn't do sushi, but like a coco? You probably will see a difference. But the market is what dictates what you serve. And multi-cuisine, even though it's something that forms a very small part of my system, I think has made its space. Indians go out in families. Dada is eating something else. Children are eating something else. The husband and wife are eating something else. But can a specialty restaurant perhaps produce a higher quality
Probably
food
not,
experience? Right? A specialty restaurant will probably create a higher quality experience, for sure.
It can. It's not impossible. If you think about a hotel, right? Let's say take a hotel which has exceptional cuisine, and there are hotels like that. It's all handled by one chef, right? Is there?
No, actually,
what
hotel has different disciplines. Every kitchen would have its own chef.
Yes, but you have one executive chef for the whole hotel, right? You have specials, but they all report to one chef. So in that sense, what I was trying to say is that I think the context in which you're consuming food is also very, very important, right? I mean, if you're consuming Japanese, then to have food in that kind of context adds value to it, right? If you're eating Empire kebabs at that particular point of time, being in that area or sitting in your car adds context to it. So
How big is ambience?
I think I was the kind of guy who 10 years ago would say to you that food is number one priority and everything else revolves around it. So you can't eat the painting, you can't eat the floor, you can't eat the beautiful sculpture that you got, but you can't eat the food on the plate. Over the years, I will have to accept that ambience perhaps plays an equally important role because it changes the way how you feel. But to each their own. I am the kind of person who will go and hunt for a food spot even in by lanes.
On occasion.
My favorite restaurant.
Sometimes you look for
ambience.
Ambience.
I personally would not.
Some days you would. Yeah. Some days you would look for.
And the culture that I'm trying to build within our specific company is that you strike a balance. So the food has to be the mainstay. But if it looks good, it feels good. People have gone into this show-off situation. If you look at Dubai, Dubai has some of the greatest restaurants now. But Dubai first started becoming a city where the look and feel was perhaps more important than that was being served. Some of the best restaurants were not doing as well as the ones that looked great. It has to be a balance. It has to be a combination.
Can I ask a parallel question? Why does food in India never taste at par with the best restaurants of Dubai, London and stuff? Is it ingredients which are not available?
Honestly, I think in many cases, Indian food tastes better.
I'm not talking
about
food in India.
I mean, food in India tastes better. I can tell you that a macaroon that she makes is not going to be much different. But in fact, even maybe superior.
If Pooja was in France, she was in Paris, the access to ingredients she would have would be better.
Certain ingredients.
Her macaroon in Paris would taste better than her macaroon
gluten
in India.
quality over there.
Yeah, the kind of almond you would choose and stuff like that. But so I'll give you an example.
Why are those ingredients not available in India? Is it because the customer will not pay the price to warrant it?
In some cases, yes.
Yeah, but
they
I
are
think
prohibitively.
the whole supply chain, right? Like by the time you get the ingredients here, by the time it reaches you.
But I've wondered, we grow like all that they grow there here as well, right? Like why is that so much better quality?
But I don't think it is better. I do not think that is better.
No, so
I think it's
Pooja disagrees. Go on.
Can I say, Nikhil?
Yeah.
So basically, if we take the same standard recipe and we take it to Delhi,
It'll be different.
it'll
from
taste
Bombay.
much better in Delhi.
Yeah.
I'll
Compared
bring it to Bangalore.
100%.
Yeah, but if I bring it to Bombay also from Bangalore, to me it'll taste better in Bangalore because the quality of ingredients available is there. Also, there is no artisanal pride right now in our agricultural economy. Right? There's no guy who's massaging the feet of their cattle or their
There
livestock.
are,
but I think that's changing.
But I'm
Akshay
talking
Kalpa,
about
Farmers
I think a lot of
Two Brothers,
artisanal farmer markets are going about.
TWF flour.
I think there's some really good
It's
stuff
growing.
going.
Yes, it's growing. But look at the base it's operating in. And I'm talking about look at the larger ecosystem.
I mean, you're not going to get a beautiful Loki right now.
Oh, artisanal pride, I mean, because people don't get rewarded
I think
for
it's
that.
coming
They
back,
are, right now, they are, the way the entire agricultural value chain is set up, right? It is the MBAs who are going, and going back to the villages, buying land and deploying scientific methods, and they're coming up with all these beautiful things, yes. But the larger ecosystem which is the mandi system, where, it's a commodity system, they are not being rewarded for artisanal products. They're not. They are more concerned with keeping their crop alive than making sure they're not going to risk they're barely hand to mouth. They cannot afford to take chances with their crops.
I think the question is to you guys, like, would you buy if you get artisanal produce at 3 times the cost of current produce?
Why would artisanal produce cost 3 times?
Okay, 1.5 times.
But why would organic cost more than inorganic?
I'm guessing artisanal can't be mass
So yield.
produced.
Simple thing is yield. Is the yield dictates that.
I think the chemicals increase yield, right?
Yeah, that's right.
The GMO may increase yield, but the cost of producing something is actually cheaper with organic than it is with inorganic. We've done a lot of work on this one. We've gone deep into provenance. We've had 4 provenance officers going in, understanding the product.
Is what we get in India called organic
And
actually organic?
So one is the fact that it is, well, you could go back for like 4 years ago. Was there any pesticides used? So, I mean, it's still murky. It's still transitioning. But again, another thing is that when you're importing things, right? India is an agricultural economy. So the tariffs and excise is prohibitive for anything excise tariffs. For example, if you were to import coffee bean, and I think Starbucks faces this challenge, it's 180% duty on coffee. It's more than what you'd pay for a car because you're protecting your agricultural economy. So on one hand, you cannot import, quality ingredients. On the other hand, there is no artisanal pride or a system that rewards artisanal agriculture. And then this mandi system where there is no provenance or accountability for what you're really producing.
I think if I have to just look at it from a dessert lens, 14 years ago, it was so difficult to find local ingredients, right? You had to use imported chocolate, you had to use everything imported to get that same quality and consistency. But today, 14 years later, you get great Indian chocolate. We use as much local ingredients as we can. Some things we still have to use that are imported. But that change is happening. So I would say that it's...
Yeah.
But today, if you had to produce the quality of macaroon you did at college in Paris, in India, how much more would it cost you?
I think we're pretty much at par because we use, the almond flour we use, etc. It is...
But if you were to bring it from there and make it, or if you were to go there and make it,
then I would be
Going
selling...
there and make it, it'll probably be
No, but
the
I would be
same,
selling it for
but-
$300 a macaroon.
But
right?
importing it
and
here
now
is
how much do you sell
expensive.
it for now? Do you think there is a market at 300?
I mean, Ladure exists in India, so...
They
Just
sell
opened
at
up.
300?
Yeah.
I think the question I'm trying to get to is that if you guys were to scatter 1 or 2 restaurants which are ultra premium in terms of produce and quality, is there a market? Like you charge 5 times more than what you charge for a dish today.
Yeah,
That is-
absolutely.
Then why are you not attempting it?
we're already quite premium, so...
I know, but if there is a market there at 300 rupees a macaroon, why are you not attempting that?
We did try with Louis Burger, with the 888 rupee burger, with real truffles, real black truffle shavings.
Yeah.
Worked very well. At one point in time, it was 10% of our sales. It was a huge market. But then it is a delivery burger at the end of the day. And no matter what kind of packaging you put around it, it's hard to sell a almost 900 rupee burger to somebody at home. But I think there's a huge market for the ultra fine dine. There are wonderful restaurants, including my own shameless plug.
Scalable?
No, it's not. It's not scalable. So Masala Library, for example, is a restaurant that I have. I have one in Bombay, another one opening in Delhi, and then I have one in Doha in Qatar. Now, these are all premium restaurants. The price per head is 3,000-4,000 rupees per head, with liquor. They're not scalable, but here I can afford to buy the high-end produce. I can afford to buy the high-end ingredients, and I can afford to buy the really high quality stuff, right? So I can afford to buy those high quality ingredients because I can sell them at a higher price. So some of these things definitely do come into play.
Yeah.
But there's a limited market. Can you buy the same tomato or the same vegetable at a price that is 3 times because of it being organic? And again, I think it's a yield issue.
Yeah.
In all Farzi cafes, it'll probably increase the price. I'll have to transfer some of that price to the consumer. So there is a market for everything, I think. But yes, at this point in time, India is not a very rich country. We cannot be delusional. We still have a per capita income of under $4,000.
Yeah.
And we still have 15% of the population currently below the poverty line, at least by latest estimates. I think the number is a little bit higher. But India as a market, from a food perspective, from a consumer perspective, is going to be the third biggest consumer market in the world by 2030, after the US and China.
Every time Zorawar speaks, I see a flag flying over his head. So patriotic.
I am extremely patriotic, and I also believe in the future of this country. I think this is going to be, in fact, the world's largest consumer market because of the simple rate of growth of our population by 2050.
Should we take like a tiny break? Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the fancy one, golden.
Yeah.
This is the fancy one. I can't wait to have the Louis Burger, man. That looks amazing.
Okay, guys, ready? Start. What do you guys think of celebrity-owned restaurants?
Farce, absolute.
They've never
overrated.
worked really, have
Never
they?
worked.
Very good.
You know, the only country in which, you like it? Good.
What?
The only country in which a celebrity / sports star run restaurant is the most popular, Sri Lanka, because their celebrities are the cricketers. So, and every other country in the world, you could take Planet Hollywood, okay? It had Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone as the founders. Bombed. So many, I'm not going to take individual restaurants numbers. If you look at, even within India, sports stars have owned restaurants.
Virat Kohli.
1-8. Zahir Khan.
Isn't that doing well?
Sachin Tendulkar.
Isn't One It doing well?
Might be an exception that is doing well in certain areas. I'm just saying in general, they don't tend to do
What
that
are
well
the other
because
celebrity-owned?
All of your restaurants. All of Zorawar's.
so I think people see through it.
Come on.
By the way, the most successful
Should be a
Japanese.
celebrity for owning a restaurant.
Huh?
I said, you're a celebrity for owning a restaurant. So why
That's
not?
true. We're definitely eternal optimists for owning a restaurant. So I think the only restaurant that is celebrity owned, that is a worldwide phenomena and is extremely successful, is, believe it or not, Nobu, partially owned by Robert De Niro. In fact, the first original investor when Chef Nobu didn't have the money was. So that's trivia for you. But yeah, in general, I think people go to restaurants for the overall experience. Celebrity can probably pull you in for the launch, can probably pull you in for hosting the right tables, getting initially the buzz going. That buzz will last as much as the first or second visit. After that, the quality of the product has to speak.
And restaurants which do these big launches, they call 500 people, give them free food and all of that. Does that work? Do you guys do that?
We do it. I do it. I think we all do it. I mean, I don't know. We definitely done that.
Is
in
that
some
for
of
your
our larger
own
properties.
entertainment or is it for the restaurant?
यार हमें कोई मजे नहीं आते पार्टी करने.
पैसे कितने लगते हैं आपको पता है?
No, we don't. I don't think we enjoy it. That I mean, we are bored to death of it. But the point is that you need to have a good launch. You need to have, you need to open up your social media and see pictures of your favorite, influencers.
There's so much noise, right?
There, it does create FOMO. It does create urgency. It does create. We need to go here.
And do you
everybody's
pay
talking
these
about
people
it.
who come to attend? Like if
Never.
somebody like
Hosting sometimes, hosting. So I'll tell you, you get to launch only once. Okay? You get to launch only once. And if you don't make a big enough buzz, you probably will have a slower, more tepid, kind of a pickup. So I think that's not necessarily good, especially with the high stakes games that the restaurants are. Definitely paying people to come, no way. You often have PR companies that help you with it and agencies that help you with it. So the payment should be restricted to that, not celebrities coming in. It's not going to help you. It's definitely not going to help people come back.
But models.
Models are not paid; they're just given in kind with free liquor and food. Riyaaz might have other ways of recovering in kind, or
I was only talking
paying,
about
or
role
paying in
models.
kind.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What about aggregator relationships?
Riyaaz will take this.
I heard like you guys are very pally with them and somebody's not paying them anything and all of that.
No, that's not true.
Please make me meet that person and let me get access to that.
But maybe you're paying them
methodology.
10% whereas everyone else is paying 30%.
Who is this?
Nobody's paying 10%, I think, as far as I know. There might be, if you do exclusivity, they might give you a lower percentage.
So first of all, let's be honest. There are lots of differential pricing
Yeah.
which is available.
How do you negotiate it?
You would negotiate it.
Is it scale alone or is
See,
it
I think the guys who signed up at a particular price point, right? In the early days, they started off with 10%. That went to 12%, they went to 14%. And right now, it is at I think the only sustainable delivery commission that is payable is 12%. You can't pay a single rupee more than that. However, now the norm is 24 to 28%. They are signing up people at 24 and 28%.
But Riyaaz, when you say 12%, you mean including the other costs? Because if you
No,
add the gateway...
I'm only talking about delivery. This is a triple D model.
Yeah.
Okay. You've not just got your delivery cost, you've got your discovery cost, which means that you're paying to be visible in a carousel, you're paying to be visible in one of those collections. I think that you would easily spend about 12% more on that. So you're looking at now 40%, which has gone to the aggregators. On top of that, your average discounting is at 14 to 15%. But if you don't discount, customers don't come to you. That is the way it has been gained.
So how does this work? Like
So
if you-
55% of your margins are taken by the aggregators, and they can't make money with that kind of gross margin. And you don't, I'm telling you. You would left with 45% to get COGS, packaging, marketing, which is non-app related marketing. Right? You got to build your brand, you got to do non-app related stuff, your rentals, your salaries.
But why are people going to aggregators?
There's no
Because
other way.
there's no other alternative. If you build your own fleet, the cost would be prohibitive. There would be a risk associated with managing the manpower, various things, and the ease of the consumer. The consumer is so used to using those apps. It's very hard. So sometimes we try, and obviously we don't get data from the aggregators, so we want to collect that data. So we offer bigger discounts to try and get that customer to order directly, and yet the adoption rates are fairly low.
In a
It's got to do with
pre-aggregator
convenience.
world, how did all this work?
Phone.
We were doing ourselves. You're delivering yourself. And that's why it was a small business.
Phone and Domino's.
They definitely have built the business, but I think the margins are not sustainable. So when he said 12%, it's actually not 12%. It's more than that. It's 12% plus payment gateway, which you have to pay anyway, 2%,
I'm
plus
saying
GST.
will be 12% is the only sustainable number that can be
But
paid.
you're talking about including taxes, because the GST is another big problem for us, right? Actually that 12 becomes like 16.
Yeah.
And that's where your margins get completely constrained. And they then say, to build relevance, the term used, you have to spend more money. So I think the platforms have definitely built this huge market and this ecosystem and made Indians fall in love with delivery, made it very easy to get it, convenient. And convenience will always win. So there's no point of, it's going to be an uphill battle to try and build your own system. If a lot of restaurants, top restaurant partners get together and build their own system, might potentially work. Individually, it'll be hard to address it, and it won't make sense because adoption rates will be so low, and the amount of money you'll have to spend to get those people to come to your app or your landing page and order, it's going to be it's going to be trickling.
Can't like a bunch of you get together because you guys have such broad chains and create your own, like a cooperative of restaurants running their own delivery?
Riyaaz should address this.
It's going to become increasingly critical that we have a counterpoint. We are developing and working very closely with ONDC now. We are going to build channels. We are going to start building competencies because we have nothing against aggregators. We appreciate that they have actually helped build a demand, right, which is not competing with the restaurant business. The delivery business is competing
complementary
with the kitchen, is not competing with restaurant. But while they've done that, they've taken away any hope of margin. So we are all running just to stay in the same place. Right? So we are going to focus on ONDC. We are going to focus on our own delivery fleet. Slowly by slowly, we're going to develop technology stacks that are going to help us do this better. And like I said, we have nothing against the aggregator, but what we are against is the tyranny of the aggregator, where things are unilaterally changed, where if you don't play by the book, you're taken off the platform, or your delivery radius drops, or your visibility is there, or you're just not available for customers to see.
And does everybody feel this way across restaurants, predominantly?
Majority.
I do.
It's also interesting because in my office, for example, right, there are all these 23, 24-year-olds and they order food every day, lunches are coming from Zomato or Swiggy. And it's never about the brand that they've ordered from. It's like, what's the best deal I got today? And that's what the customers now use to.
They've made deal seekers out of customers.
So it's just...
It's like an addiction. Discounting has become an addiction, and that's never a good thing. Whenever you build an entire system based on giving discounts, eventually the consumer suffers. Eventually.
It's transactions at the cost of profitability. It's growth at the cost of profit.
And also, sometimes I feel that the funding of that discount is being done by the restaurant, at the cost of the restaurant. So I think there has to be some kind of dialogue that needs to increase. And I think that's happening. I think both sides are willing to talk and liaise with each other in a positive, proactive manner. Worldwide, you've seen this happen, where eventually it becomes an ecosystem that's a win-win. So let's hope for that.
But if they're not able to be profitable at their current margins, how will they be at 1/3?
Maybe they should stop buying rubbish companies.
If I were to be an investor in Zomato, which is a publicly listed stock, should this make me worried? If all restaurants are thinking this way, including our pastry chef?
It's going to take some time.
They have adjusted EBITDAs too, and which is good. I think, see, look, they definitely are a duopoly, right? This is definitely a growing market. And what they have seen is that for every 5,000 restaurants that come off their platform every week, they get another 6,000 restaurants coming in their stead. They don't care. They're agnostic to the fate of the restaurant. They are only building the habit-forming activity. They are building the use case, which is great. The problem is that what is happening to those guys who are putting up the investments or quitting their jobs, taking all their life savings and putting that into a business, because it's a business that you can, 6 lakh rupees mein business set up ho jayega. The average guy who set up a kitchen with, who's getting into the restaurant industry, the first time entrepreneur, doesn't have the sophisticated marketing techniques where he can push those products out. Right? He is completely dependent on visibility that comes from those platforms. But the system will go on, the discounting will go on.
I don't have a very dystopian view of the future. I think the future, there will be some form of coherence and rationality being built in. That would mean both parties would need to address situations. I really think that commissions need to be addressed. And I really think that data sharing should become something that starts happening. Important
They
to
don't
be able
share
to
any
build.
data now?
Not customer data. There's enough data being shared. Let me
So
just
if
be
I
very...
order from, say, a Masala Library and I get the food I order via Swiggy, Zomato or any other aggregator, you don't know who ordered?
I don't know who you are. And obviously there are ways you can put a little pamphlet that if you have a problem, call us and all that, but that doesn't really work. And
But they wouldn't like that, right?
No,
They would not
they
want that.
actively
They would not want
go
that.
through your packages and remove any such literature.
the problem is the consumer will still choose to go on Zomato or Swiggy and order from you. That's the problem. And it's not
it's
necessarily
so
a problem,
easy.
it's a convenience issue. If I have an account, like I have Swiggy and Zomato on my account, to be honest, and I'm in the delivery business extensively, but I've not built my fleet and I don't really intend to build it immediately till I have a sense that this money can be recovered. I just think it has to become more of a win-win and a hand-in-glove scenario where we're not against each other, we're working with each other.
But
For
why
that
would
dialogue-
you want to build the fleet individually when you can get...
Exactly.
A cluster fleet.
That's exactly my point. Oh, you mean when we get together, some of us get
like
together?
you would want Riyaaz,
That
you
would
would want
be-
Pooja, you would want like 100 others if...
Absolutely.
I think
That's an alternative.
It's
Do you
not
guys use
that.
Thrive?
I use .pay, but yeah, Thrive is another good mechanism, and you can have pinging services from a plethora of people, which will tell you where to go, how to go. You can even give tracking services. It's all available.
What is happening
But
with
the discovery element, is better on these platforms,
apps.
right? When you have the loyalty, when you know exactly what you want, there's a use case to go to your app, because now you can do it on WhatsApp. You've got catalogs available. You can call. If you don't want the hassle, you want the convenience, all that data stack is available to you on various platforms. But the discovery component and the discounting component, that is the catnip that people are coming back for.
But how can they ever discount in a manner that you, the originator of the product, can discount? They can never compete with that, right? Like if you built a platform yourself to deliver, your cost price is 30, you can sell it 30, but an aggregator can never discount as much as you, right?
It's taken years of taking hits on the bottom line and sustaining that to be able to get to that critical mass where now your delivery guy is that his salary is paying for stuff and paying for it more. This is basically a fixed cost versus a variable cost model. Right? Restaurateurs don't have those deep pockets. They don't even have those margins where they can afford to pay for those things. So it is a little bit of a loop. But eventually, I think that there will be some way out of this.
Is that the same for you, Pooja? With desserts and muffins and macaroons and everything?
I mean, the good thing is we have higher margins. So
What margins do you operate on?
18-20%.
Yeah, but not 20
very
and
good.
30.
18-20% is
Wait,
fabulous.
what name should I make the checkout for?
De do.
Seriously. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Below.
And that's despite using the best ingredients.
But now I'm going to take this 300 rupee macaroon idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
Go with it.
You should.
Gold on it.
yeah,
Put
put
gold.
gold.
Put gold on it.
Yeah.
More quickly.
So is there a tip, like if I'm a new restaurateur and I'm going to Swiggy and Zomato, I know it's ridiculously, obnoxiously high, the margin, for whatever reason, market fundamentals. How do I negotiate?
खुद को कर बुलंद इतना कि रेट लिखने के पहले एग्रीगेटर खुद प्रोडक्ट से पूछे कि बता तेरी रजा क्या है. The only way of doing this is to have a really, really strong product. Tell the aggregators to sit on it. Just do your business. Create a great demand. Create a great thing. They will come to you and they will do it at your price.
Can't you play one against the other?
You can, but again, if you're not also ran product, if you have a very, very solid product, which has great recall, which has a following, which is becoming, very, very trendy. People are reaching out and want that. You're not on that. That's something that they will come to you and say, okay, we want you exclusively. Then you can start playing up.
This is actually
Why
really-
can't you tell Swiggy, if you crack a deal with Swiggy at 15% and tell Zomato, unless you do 12%, I'll only sell on Swiggy. Why wouldn't that work?
I think people have tried that, and I don't think it's going to work throughout. So they've also wisened up to that. But I think more importantly,
Do they work together? Do they collude?
no, they don't. They don't. They don't even hire from each other, from what I know.
Neither do we.
We were still better off. Our relationship is, we're not a duopoly.
We do not
We're a
cartelize.
multi-opoly. Okay. So I think there are institutions, for example, you have Truffles in Bangalore. They can demand whatever rates they can because they're an institution. They're a legendary restaurant. A regular burger joint cannot do that. One way that I would recommend to people that if they're in a certain geography is that you could go the route of being exclusive. If you offer that, there is a potential of asking for lower percentages because you're in a way alleviating the ability of that restaurant to be sold, that brand to be sold on another platform. That was one way. I don't think you can play people against each other, and that's not going to work.
But I also think it's what we are doing is also working with Swiggy to create products, which is
that
quite,
fill a need.
Yeah, because they come to us and they say, okay, these are the products that are really working. We only have one person, Instamart especially. We only have one person doing this. If you can create this, I know that I can occupy this.
Where there's scarcity, where there's a demand-supply imbalance, they're really, really quick to try and fill up those gaps.
I've tried the ONDC app. What is it called? Magic Pin or whatever.
Magic Pin.
That brings your cost down from 20% to 4-5%, right? What is the issue with it right now?
So ONDC is definitely is a democratization and a commoditization of delivery. Now here's the beauty. There are enough third-party aggregators that can responsibly and effectively take your product from your cloud kitchen or your restaurant to the end user. There are enough of them now. They, however, perhaps are not as seamless because Magic Pin or Paytm, who have these seller apps on ONDC, are still relying on these third-party people. They're not employees of Magic Pin or employees of Paytm. They're third-party delivery people. So that extra charge is there. But the way to circumvent that is to be able to charge the consumer a fee. And I think the fee for 3 kilometers is 50 rupees. So if you're within 3 kilometers, you charge 50, it's a little bit more, charge 70. I think people, and the advantage is because
prices are coming down, Zorawar, right? The cost of delivery is coming down because as we move into
no, but that's my point. No,
electric
so
mobility,
that ONDC is a viable alternative.
Right now, the cost of the actual hardcore cogs of delivery is at 22 rupees. It's not. It's
For
not.
what? 22 rupees what?
22 rupees is the cost of delivery.
For what distance?
Is what you will pay your guy. It's your average distance of 5 kilometers.
Irrespective of distance.
Yeah, 22 rupees is your cost.
Per kilometer, or what are you saying?
22 rupees is your cost of delivery for that package and come back.
But there has a distance to it, right?
5 kilometers.
If it's 100 kilometers away, you can't.
5 kilometers is 22 rupees, right? The problem which is happening is that ONDC is coming through seller apps.
Yeah.
And that's only as good as the fact that how Magic Pin is doing, right? The point is that ONDC, once we start creating our own
ecosystem
on ONDC and we start working regional wise, where we start sharpening our delivery capabilities, are what is called on-demand delivery, right? Because that's what these guys have really cracked. It's on-demand delivery. Dunzo is very good, Shadowfax is very good at delivery, last mile delivery, but not necessarily on demand. The trick is to get the meal into their hands in 15 minutes or less. After it leaves from the kitchen, it has to be able to get to that person.
But that will happen with scale.
Right. Incredible innovation though, right? ONDC.
It's beautiful. It's a democratization.
Yeah.
The beauty of the Indian tech stack is just amazing.
Yeah.
It is fascinating, I think.
He's a friend of mine, Nandan, who's kind of like worked around a lot of these.
CTO of India.
Incredible.
CTO of India, literally.
Incredible human being.
Yeah.
And
He cares.
also like keeps the ecosystem together.
Adhar was also his?
Huh?
Adhar was his brainchild?
So he has a dinner once in a month at
UPI.
home. And he
Wow.
makes sure we all catch up, and it's an
Fabulous.
ecosystem.
He's a true Indian.
Yeah.
He's a true guy who cares about this country, about about making this country more technically savvy and a world leader.
And his wife, like very few people know Rohini, but she does so much work in climate and water, and incredibly driven couple, and their daughter and their like entire family. Okay, cloud kitchens, do they work?
Riyaaz had a very strong
We'll have
reaction.
totally different. So
But that's interesting.
yeah,
Cloud kitchens work for where either you are a very strong brand that you've built over the years. You come from a certain pedigree and have the sophistication enough to understand sophisticated marketing tools, right? And CRM, and to be data-driven and analytically driven. It's very, very difficult for the average. If you think mortality rates in the restaurant businesses are high, the mortality rates in the cloud kitchen business are twice as high, because the data which we've seen, I said,
So we actually use it as a testing
5,000
ground.
restaurants a month
Wow.
are going off platforms. That's 5,000 broken dreams every month.
Wow.
Right. And they're just going off because they cannot manage. Because how will you manage where 55% of your margin is being taken by
I
somebody?
don't think it's 55%.
How?
I think the numbers are not there.
Push come to shove, things stay as they are today. Will you build your own fleet? Will you have to build your own?
I think it's good to have a good balance. I definitely would like a scenario where 25 to 30% of our delivery orders are done directly. From a data perspective, I want to have a direct contact with my consumer and get feedback more closely. I think that's the sweet spot for me.
So top dishes, chaat, biryani, sweets, or top cuisines, Chinese, Indian. Do you think the odds of success are higher building here or building something new altogether as a new person starting a restaurant?
pedigree always helps.
No,
Are
pedigree,
you saying
nothing.
that? Are you?
I'm a
what is
new
the-
guy. I've
Yeah.
saved up a little bit of money. I was working in a job last 5 years. Should I hit North Indian, Chinese, South Indian, or chaat, chicken biryani, sweet?
From a popularity perspective.
From a success, odds of success perspective.
Here's the double-edged sword here, I think, is that though cuisines like North Indian and biryani might be more popular than, say, a burger and pizza, pizzas are now equally popular. The problem also remains that there's a lot more competition, a lot more players in these fields. So it's hard to say. We've seen, for example, a tougher challenge selling pizzas than burgers. Whereas the demand for pizzas is far more than burgers in India. It's like literally like our dinner and our snack and our lunch. Pizzas has reached that. There are fewer burger places. And as a result, if you can make a difference, make a better product, you can stand out. And the competition is lower, supply is lower from the restaurant side. Whereas in pizzas, you're competing with the big boys. And although Domino's is the biggest of them all, you have Burger King and you have McDonald's. But I just think that it's not just the cuisine itself, it's also how many people are playing that game at that time.
It's a demand-supply game depending on which region you're operating in. There are certain areas where there's a certain demand. So, like for example, Mexican is not sought after in all regions. No, it's fair. Like there's some areas where there will be no demand for an 800 rupee burger. There's some demand where the demand for an 800 rupee burger will outstrip that. So it is strategic. I can't give you one answer for the whole market. It depends on which market you're thinking about operating in. That's where you got to see what is being underserved and what is being. If you're thinking about scale, it's a different issue. But if you're starting off, I think you're very well placed by finding out what is the demand, and the aggregators are very happy to share this information with you.
Yeah.
You can go to them and you can ask them, hey, listen, where are you seeing a demand-supply mismatch? What is an area, a gap that we can help fulfill? Right? And they will very happily give you that data. And if you're willing to play that game, then yes, you do have a reasonable chance of success.
I think for me, when I started, I asked myself a very simple question. And I just said, I don't want to have anything on my menu that's available everywhere. And for me, that was a differentiation at that time. And I think it worked also because it's a different market, it's a different premium level. But yeah, if you do something that everybody is doing, then the competition is obviously a lot more. You won't be.
Specifically to answer your question, I think it's not about the cuisine. It's about which market, which geography are you serving what. For example, it might be easier to serve butter chicken in Bangalore than biryani. Even though biryani is more popular.
That data is best taken from the aggregators. And do they give it just like that for free?
They'll share it because they want to build the ecosystem. So that's one data that you're never going to have a problem getting.
They will not give you data of the customer because they want to keep the funnel to themselves.
Right.
But and they will cite security reasons, of course, for that. But that data is not. But any other data where there's a kind of a mismatch or what is being ordered, that is freely available. So if you go and you ask them, ये एरिया में सबसे ज़्यादा क्या order हो रहा है और इसमें कितने players हैं, that data is available with them.
And that could be used as a tool for new people, right?
This burger, man.
It's quite nice. We've not tried this one yet.
1600 ले लें.
ये क्या है?
I don't know. Lamb. That looks like lamb.
Do you want to try that?
What is this? साधारण है.
Where's the chicken? There must be some chicken burgers also, guys. But अब तो ठंडे हो गए, अब तो नहीं क्या खाओगे अब. Fried chicken burger cold is not going to work.
मेरी कॉफी भी ठंडी हो गई यार, फिर भी पी रहा हूँ.
Supply chain, am I missing anything? Is there a way to negotiate efficiencies in the supply chain to reduce the cost of goods? Where do you buy supplies from as a restaurant owner?
Multiple vendors. All of us rely on Hyperpure has been started by Zomato that is trying to, become a platform. But at this point in time, the vast majority of restaurants around the country are buying from individual vendors that they've had relationships for years. And it's a good thing. You should encourage this local farmer, local vendor. These guys, the meat supplier, the local butcher, the local farmer, the local vegetable guy, even though he's a consolidator, he goes to the mandi every morning, picks up the stuff, does that effort, does that value add, and then gives it to you. I think that should be supported, but there are now alternatives. There are larger platforms like Hyperpure that are providing a platform.
And you, Pooja?
We also use Hyperpure now for our basic groceries, and then we have
Why is that? Is it quality? Is it cost? Why?
convenience.
Single vendor for many things.
Do you get credit?
Yeah, you get.
Yes, but not a lot.
But you get better credit from the individual
individuals.
vendors. And also
So we
remember, there's a
don't-
relationship thing. I think there's
One hand you're saying support the local guy, and the other hand we're going
we do a mix
But
of
what
both.
percentage?
Wait
Yeah, a small percentage.
How much?
Like a fraction.
How much?
A fraction.
Okay.
Fraction is in single digits percentage.
Support the local guy.
I do. I love the local guy. In fact, I think that I have more of a relationship with the local guy, far more than anybody than I would get with a large platform. Again, I don't want to get dependent also on one large player, right? I want to have my, these people. For example, the red meat, the goat that I get in for the NCR region comes from one small butcher who used to first supply to my house. I helped him build capacity. I actually said, listen, I'm guaranteeing you this much purchase. Can you please start producing more for me? And he built the system where now he's actually supplying to others.
Main points one needs to keep in mind while opening a restaurant. One big question, location. How do you guys
Location,
narrow
location.
down on location? Because you've all said location, location, location. What do you use individually to figure out the location?
I think all of us will have some similar points and some overlaps. I'm a little bit old school in this sense. When it comes to a restaurant location, a physical offline restaurant location, I would like to visit at least once or multiple times if possible and go with the gut. I do rely on data, but like I said, the data is fairly, it's not really that accurate, and it might be stale. It might be stale data that you're getting from these agencies. You should go and see other restaurants in the area.
Go
to
sit in
gauge.
other restaurants
Yeah,
for a day.
absolutely. That's how you do a site survey. A site survey is a 2-day exercise. It's not usually a one, because you're going to invest 5-6 crore rupees into a restaurant. You should at least give it 2 days.
Yeah.
Makes logical sense. Sit there, put the time in. And I don't think, even though I have a great business development team and people I really trust, and sometimes, especially for overseas locations, I'm not able to visit. I think it's important especially if you're starting out, to spend that time
And
to go
Pooja?
and focus on that.
For me, at least for Bombay, it's been because I know the city. I kind of know the pulse of it. I know where the product will really sell. But what we've been doing recently is actually using the cloud kitchen model to kind of understand a neighborhood. So, for example, we started a cloud kitchen in Juhu for 6 months, and we saw that was really successful. And we said, okay, this market is successful. Let's open a store here. And we opened a store there. So we kind of using that and saying, okay, we're doing
great
Thane
idea.
now.
That's a
And
very good way to do it.
Backward. Very
Yeah,
good.
we're
Very
doing
good.
Thane now, and we're saying, okay, Thane is doing well for us. Malad didn't do that well for us. So we're kind of
And the
testing.
capex of a cloud kitchen is significantly lower.
It's
than-
lower. It's nothing.
Fraction.
So, fraction, yeah. We're working with an existing cloud kitchen, so we just supply goods there. So then it's
And they
just
do the fulfillment.
they do it.
And everyone can
Supply
try
chain
this,
is
right?
controlled.
Yeah.
By you, not
This
making
seems
it
like a
up.
great hack, no?
Yeah.
Supply to an existing cloud kitchen.
Yeah, I mean,
Test it out.
Rebel is entirely on that.
Yeah. Riyaaz?
Well, I think location is also a function of product, depending on what kind of product you want to offer. So that becomes very important. If you are a QSR business, you of course want to be in a fast-moving, audience. You want to be able to capitalize on footfall, not just I'm talking about walking footfall, not driving footfall, because that doesn't really help us. Right?
How do you-
if you're
how
a
do you-
slightly more sophisticated product,
How do you count footfall?
well, what do you mean?
Like if you're picking a location and you want to know what is the footfall of people just passing by that place, how do you count?
So, I mean, we get our data points like from various agencies that
Again,
are commissioned.
JLL,
Yeah, JLL.
real estate agencies,
Cushman
things like
and
that.
Local
Wakefield,
brokers.
There are local brokers. And a lot of the information that restaurateurs get.
And how does
are
someone
from
get this information from JLL? They email them?
143 की last local जो निकलती है बॉम्बे सेंट्रल से वो जाती है there everybody knows everybody से तो we know कि ये रेस्टोरेंट यहाँ पे इतना पैसा कर रहा है this is the sale this restaurant is doing this restaurant is doing it's anecdotally available this information is largely
On one
available.
particular train. Why?
Because this is where the crowds mingle, no? This is where all the hospitality guys go back. This is where the information comes in. They talk to each other. There's a loose connection. There's some guy who's working for my restaurant has worked with somebody else at somebody else's restaurant. There's always a network. So there's always a loose sharing of information going on about how much business, this one's doing. Everybody knows
Sales
कि
reports
ये
are very
restaurant
porous.
4 crore कर रहा है, ये restaurant 3 crore कर रहा है, ये restaurant पिट गया है. Everybody knows that in the industry. So there's another form of triangulation. Another form of triangulation is to basically figure out from your suppliers how much, which restaurants are buying, which regions where they're supplying more, your liquor companies. These are again rich data sources. Aggregators, again rich data sources. So these are all different data sources that are available to you, and depending on what your product is and what kind of price points, etc. That is again available. The demographic breakup is also available, so you can decide.
Oh, very interesting.
Based on that.
All 3 points very interesting. How do you account for pilferage in accounting, and how do you prevent that from happening? Because if I'm new and starting a restaurant, that could be a big issue, right?
It is.
It is. Unfortunately, it's a reality. And you have to learn to ignore some of it, but you have to have systems. See, this is a very high touch point industry. There are many moving parts. And as a result, even though barriers to entry are low, you don't need a diploma to open a restaurant, the dependence on systems is arguably even higher than perhaps if you're making a ball bearing factory. You're buying from one vendor, you're producing in one machine. There are not too many people. Here there are so many gaps. The bartender is one.
So what
touch point.
hacks do you use? What do you do?
I don't think there are any hacks. I think there's a lot of, like I said, building
Do you
systems.
never outsource supply, like paying the supplier, ordering, all of that?
So overseas we do that. The entire accounting, for example, in Farzi Cafe, London is outsourced because we don't, for one restaurant, not going to build a whole finance department. In India, we do it fully internalized. You have to have systems. I cannot downplay the importance of, like I said, it is low barrier to entry, but there are just so many gaps. You have to have dependence on good people, build good culture, perhaps develop a direct relationship with your vendors. So when I say pilferage, I'm assuming you're saying consumer comes and bill's not raised, or the vendor is supplying 10 and you're being charged for 12, right? Culture building, making sure there are enough audits. We do a bunch of audits, but I think it's more important you just have to learn. You can't police people for too long.
Can you remote control a restaurant? Can you not be physically at that particular branch and check for all this?
Yeah, how else
What
do you do
are
it?
your methods of accounting and pilferage?
So basically, opening stock, less purchases, closing stock is basic accounting. But what you follow is standard recipes, which are fed into your point of sale system. Your inventory management system needs to be linked with the point of sale system. From your sale of today, if I've sold, let's say in a month I've sold 300 coffees, it's very easy to calculate what my consumption of coffee should have been, what my consumption of milk should have been, what my consumption of sugar should have been. And you get a little tolerance levels, but it's very, very easy to tell that. You have to be able to be very diligent in your audits and stock keeping. Right? Your bar inventory needs to be tallied every night. You cannot afford to not do it. Your inventories need to be closed on the 31st of every month. Means they need to be closed on 31st. Whatever happens, come rain or high water, it needs to be closed. Your stocks need to be, your first in, first out methods need to be followed. They need to be followed. Barcoding needs to happen. It needs to happen. So there's various technology stacks which are available right now.
Is there a particular software you can buy that helps you do this? That you
Yeah.
guys
many-
use?
There is
many software.
What do you guys use?
We have a system called Rista, just .pay started.
I use Rista too.
And we use them
.pay.
for POS system.
Spell that? How do you spell Rista?
RISTA.
RIST.
Rishta ka Rista. And .pay runs it. Good system. It's a new one, but it's fairly robust. And we also use the ERP system. So in different kind of restaurants, you need different kind of systems. Like I said, if you don't have SOPs, you're dead in the water because there are so many gaps.
Right.
And there are so many touch points. For Rista, the ERP system they also have an ERP, but you don't need a SAP. You don't need a SAP. You need a basic material management system.
Right.
And that's linked to your POS, and that can then identify consumption, and you tally that with the sale. One key thing in liquor-based restaurants such as Socials or Farzi Cafes, that have a high liquor component, we at our company do a daily inventory of every single bottle of liquor every night. And we have a weekly food cost report. So every week we have a full food cost report, opening, closing, consumption. with a running, like a real-time food cost and COGS report. What that does is, it helps us track if there are anomalies. And the anomalies can be addressed timely. If you do it twice a month, half the month is over, you found out to adjust it takes another week. And then you're already late. Your food cost is going to jump, your beverage cost is going to jump. So I think, use the technology, it's there. For all the young people watching who want to get into this, use the technology. It's there, it's cheap. It's not expensive, and it's easy to learn. And there's enough.
How much does it cost?
I don't know the exact numbers, but it's in literally a few thousands per restaurant per month. A few thousands.
A full stack point of sale and inventory management system should cost you less than $1 lakh a year.
Yeah, few thousand per restaurant per month.
Any hacks?
We use a system called Barometer, which is our material management system. Same thing, like it's far easier for us because recipes are so specific as compared to alcohol.
Yours is even better because it's all chemistry.
So 100 grams of butter will always be 100 grams of butter.
Yeah.
So we use Barometer, and it's the same thing. It's linked to your POS, and then you tally it at the end of the day. And
No wonder your COGS are 18%.
I remember reading a book about designing a menu long ago, and I realized then, I don't remember it now, but designing the menu is an entire science, right? Like you have an anchoring bias, you price dishes you want to sell in a different section.
Ascending or descending.
You put prices in a different manner. What is the science of designing a menu and some hacks that could work improve sales? Riyaaz.
A magician never reveals. No, okay. Look, I mean, you could put in various, NLP hacks into those things, and you could come up with a lot of that. I think what the basic systems are, what is called menu engineering, where you basically figure out what are the things that are your stars, which means that they're moving fast, and you're getting a decent margin, which is acceptable. What are your dogs, right, which are where there are no margins and there are no sales. What are your workhorses means that you're getting enough volume, but they're a little lower on profitability.
And how do you position the menu in a manner that what you want to sell sells more?
Again, you put your, there's anchoring bias, where you place your menu, which is highlighted, which is not highlighted. Now, in addition to the printed menus, now we are increasingly having to become very savvy about digital menus. So we have to use the same cataloging tricks that are happening. So even within restaurants now, we are not giving customers physical menus. We're encouraging them to order.
Yeah, I don't like that. I love physical menus, man.
Yeah, so do I. Because I can't like it. But,
we've stopped digital everywhere.
But the millennials and the Gen Zs, the shutting out economy champions, they don't want to
this
look
is not true. I'm a millennial, I can say that.
But see, what we're seeing on the ground level is that we're more than happy. And we've seen higher AOVs on digital menus than we're seeing in printed menus.
Also the
which
menu.
is very interesting for me.
And your menu design?
So our menu. So firstly, let me address menu design in general. I think you have to look at it in two different ways. One is casual dining restaurants, like most of us here are involved in, and then there is the QSR. The QSR is actually a science where they realize where the cashier is standing. The TV screen above him is the first one to get the eyeballs. So he's the most expensive, or the combos will be there. The burger, the single burger, which is the lowest value-adding product for them, is literally stuck in the right corner. There's a literal book written on how McDonald's developed this system of human psychology. You're working with psychologists to figure out where should they display what in order to enhance AOV, because they're working on smaller AOVs. I think my father has spent a lot of time building this. He always believed in starting with being India, the vegetarian section first, and going in an ascending order. So lowest to highest. So the most expensive product is at the bottom of that particular section, simply because when people read the menu, you don't want to see a 2,000 rupee dish straight at the top. You're immediately turned off. This restaurant is too expensive. Fuck, let me order just one dish.
That's the opposite of the anchoring bias that we're talking about.
Correct. But in a restaurant, in a casual dining or a fine dining restaurant, it has to work the other way.
But that's assuming you scan the menu once.
Yeah. No,
if you're always going to scan the menu a couple of times before you make up your mind, your anchor can be downstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And again, like I said, QSR and CDR and FDR are three different things. So when you're going to a restaurant like a Indian Accent or one of his saltwater grills or premium restaurants, you're going to see a different kind of consumer. Not necessarily entirely is the purchase decision based on price. And vegetarianism, why I do that is because I feel that this one country, and again, I'm talking about Indian restaurants in general. I'm not necessarily talking about like, an Asian restaurant or an Italian restaurant. When you go as a family, it's just more comforting to see a dal makhani or a paneer makhani or something like that, because 45% of all consumers that come to my restaurants are naturally vegetarian, which
Why
means...
is that? I read 80%, 79% of India is non-vegetarian.
It is. I don't know
Outside
if
of
the number is that
Haryana,
high. I
Gujarat
don't know if the number is
and
that high.
Punjab, most of South India
Punjab
is
is
non-vegetarian.
49% vegetarian.
Punjab,
surprisingly.
Haryana, Gujarat.
Punjab is the highest.
Highest vegetarian.
Haryana is the highest.
No, Punjab.
Really?
49%, and you won't believe...
Haryana, I thought the number is 65% or something vegetarian.
I don't know. I've read numbers that are 49% for Punjab being the most vegetarian. And the most non-vegetarian is Kerala, Goa, West Bengal.
Karnataka, Tamil Nadu.
There's a
Karnataka,
diagonal
Tamil Nadu.
line that's running across India. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not a horizontal line.
Yeah.
From the northeast
Yeah.
to Goa, in that sense, there's a diagonal line, and I think south and east is non-vegetarian.
Non-vegetarian.
Rice consuming, and north and west tends to be a little bit more veg, bread basket.
And that comes...
Menu hacks.
For me, it's more about how the display fridge looks. That's what works for us. So it's you eat with your eyes first, where you position what.
Do you also do smell? Because a lot of new age coffee shops are doing
doing
that.
that. Yeah, I mean that's how Cinnabon
Yeah.
They
They put
KFC,
perfume
right?
outside the store.
Even
even.
KFC does
That's
that.
Cinnabon.
that Cinnabon
Yeah.
smell in any
I
mall
love it.
was just
Yeah.
like...
And the McDonald's French fry smell.
Yeah.
We actually haven't experimented with smell, but that's a great idea as well. So I'm taking away the 300 rupee macaroon and adding smell.
Great.
Yeah.
And who do you guys use for menu designing?
We do it fully internally. 100% internal.
We have an agency that we work
Who
with.
do you use?
It's an agency called Starting Monday.
Starting Monday.
Yeah.
And Riyaaz? We're trying to do everything that can help a guy starting a restaurant, right? Who do you use?
AI.
Through?
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT.
Is it doing a good job? That's a good segue actually. Is
Yeah,
AI
yeah.
helping you guys in any way?
In many
Yeah,
ways,
we
I
are.
think AI
Many
is
ways.
helping us in many ways develop dishes.
Huh?
Yeah.
Actually,
Wow. I mean, if you have a concept, so the way we work with chefs, right? And we kind of together, okay, let's make a menu on grammar, right? Can you make an alliteration? Can you make a metaphor? Can you make an oxymoron? Or can you make a menu on Bandra? Or can you make a thing like that? So when we are basically conceptualizing, and this is a really good exercise that we kind of get into. And then when you're trying to construct this and build this, right, the certain keywords going into AI helps chefs also be able to also present their ideas in a better manner, right? And that helps.
But are you really pushing it to the extent
We
that
have just started using it, to be honest. We've
if
just
there is a
started using
video
it.
camera in your restaurant which is recording eating behaviors and reactions of people consuming the food, that's a lot of data collection, right?
We are using our
China
cameras.
is doing that with their students in all their schools.
Yeah.
We use our cameras to do table heat mapping. So for example, we like to see which are the tables that people like to sit at, which are the tables that get filled first. Camera technologies are helping us do that.
And what is the likely table of people, right?
We are getting to see. We are getting table counts. We are getting to see male versus female ratios in our restaurants. We are not listening in on them, and we are not reading their lips, or we are seeing their expressions.
Yet.
Oh, thanks
No, that's
for
not something that we're going to do.
Thanks for
That's what we
clarifying.
have our servers, because they
Yeah.
are
Who
the
do you
point.
use? What software do you use for this?
Sorry?
Video to...
Jarvis, I think. We use Jarvis.
Do you guys use it as well?
as an app.
We don't use table mapping, but we're using AI very extensively. Not for menu generation, but for image creation, okay, for even copywriting, okay? And we're using it also for videos.
Riyaaz, I've heard in our research that you're big on design. And design is a very big element from the time you had a coffee shop called Mocha. I've actually been there. You had one in Kormangla back in the day, I think like a decade ago. How do you go about, we all established that ambience is, if not as important as food, it is very important. How do you go about designing the interiors of a restaurant? How do you budget for it? Some hacks around that for somebody starting off.
I think the design starts with how do you want your how do you want your guests to feel? Right? Do you want them to feel elegant? Do you want them to feel sophisticated? Do you want them to feel at home? Do you want them to feel comfortable? Do you want them to feel like they're transported into a magical land? Right? I mean, I can have the same cup of coffee which I'm holding. Either I can hold it like this, right, which is a different thing. I can hold it like this, or I can hold it like as a cuddle mug. And all these things are very tactile that actually go a very long way in how you feel. Things that you can feel, touch. All materials have a temperature. They have a texture, right? And it conveys something. Leather conveys something, right? Velvet conveys something. It's feel. And then, of course, you want the experience to be in the same chord. You want to feel that particular way. So how do you get somebody to feel more sophisticated? How do you get somebody to feel a little bit more elegant? How do you get somebody to feel like, okay, you can come here in your flip-flops? And that all starts with design. And I think whether we like it or not, everything is designed. Whether we call it design or not, but it is design.
I worked with Riyaaz's friend, very good friend Ayaz, for the design of my cafe when we did in Colaba.
Which was beautiful, brother.
It was such a beautiful process, the whole thing working with him. And initially he asked me, he's like, close your eyes, visualize, if you could visualize your space as a person, what would that person be? And when we were talking about, he was at a young Sean Connery, and I said, no, it's Monica Bellucci. And that's when, then you got the little femininity, you got the space, you got the finer touches. So I think it's about understanding what the final feel of the place should be like.
Design?
I think the place.
Do you guys personally get involved now after all this growth? Do you still partake in the design element of a new restaurant?
I'd be out of a job if I didn't.
Like I said, 10 years ago, I would have spent less time, or I would say like a third of what I do now. So design has become just so important to the overall experience. It's no longer just about the food or the drink, or design dictates how you feel. Does it make you feel good? Does it make you feel luxurious? Does it make you feel comfortable? Does it make you feel relaxed? So many things are dictated entirely by the design of the space. I think I have a decent aesthetic sense, but I like to rely on these really talented people. I think design has become so important that you have to have access to great people like them to be able to build these beautiful spaces, because they can think in a way that at least a person like me can simply not. And they bring that extra, the fourth dimension in a way,
and
which I really love.
You want somebody who's going to come to you with a genuinely thought out design, with purpose, with origin, with direction. You don't want somebody coming to you with a mood board from Pinterest, right? Because that is what design has been reduced to now. You see something which is trending on Pinterest, you can bet your life that 3 months later, you're going to see 40 restaurants which are going to look exactly the same. Right?
My first ever store the proper first store in Bandra, I remember the day I signed it, I went with my friend Prithvi, who runs a company called Starting Monday. And we went to a cafe and he turned the menu upside down and he said, close your eyes and describe your store. And I described it. And as I described it, he drew it out. And then we took that to a friend's dad who was an architect and said, can you please replicate that? And then we actually have the picture of the drawing with the store next to it.
Beautiful.
It's like lovely. So
Wow.
I feel like it's not, you don't need too much sometimes. Sometimes you just need to know what you really want.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. Sometimes just a clever use of paint and just the right kind of shade of sofa or upholstery. That's the magic. You don't need anything else.
A lot of people said UGC. They talk about UGC like the holy grail, user-generated content. They say to get through virality, you need to have user-generated content. How do you incentivize or trigger an audience to do that?
So, for example, in our Palladium store, we have 3 giant macaroons stacked against each other. And it's just everyone who enters that store just takes a picture with it. Like, we don't ask them to. We don't say, stand here, take a picture. But they walk in and they
Do you
see something.
incentivize for them taking a picture and tagging you?
We don't, actually.
Instagram is a tool to be harnessed. So a few years ago, being Instagrammable was very important. I think the world has moved on. See, there are cycles in everything. The restaurant industry has a cycle shorter than any other industry. Every 6 months, food tastes change, design tastes change, the entire vibe around a certain, area changes, entire markets change. So I think the cycles are smaller in our industry than perhaps even in the fashion industry.
Any other ideas around UGC?
I think uniqueness definitely is what gathers attention. I mean, scientifically, that's what we're designed to do. We process a lot less information than we are receiving. Right? So novelty is one great way of actually.
So would you
getting
add
something.
one novelty-based
It
element?
definitely is definitely a thumb stopper. It definitely is. I think one of the things
those
that
days
we've
are
done.
gone.
No,
I think no
I-
longer
I
is
don't
novelty
know,
required.
yeah. When I went to Japan now, I think my whole list was an Instagram-filled list of like all these like matcha-filled drinks and like
Yeah,
cones
food,
and
yes.
stuff.
Food, yes. I'm talking about from a design
From a design
perspective. From a design perspective, I think being Instagrammable.
No, food or design.
Also.
I mean both for UGC.
Food, I think the more unique it is, the more effort you put into the
Pouring
presentation.
things and
That's going to be
dry
forever.
ice
That-
and all that.
See,
a
a lot of this,
one of the largest
a lot of this
consumers
drama.
of liquid nitrogen in the
Till it got banned. Till it got banned.
Is that a big
Riyaaz came and had a sip of the liquid nitrogen. One of my
and
restaurants
burned
got
a hole in
his stomach,
my stomach.
and we had to get it repaired. He was kind enough to not let it out in the public till today.
Is that a
There's
good?
a hole in my soul.
to be filled with?
that you need to fill.
To be how? Great food, Louis burger with gold on it. I'll give you that. Yeah?
Is
Oh
that
my
going
God,
to
so
be an
good.
increasingly important element, drama, to make a restaurant work?
Used to be.
to get eyeballs in the beginning, I think.
beginning.
I
Or
don't
to
think-
continue?
When Farzi Cafe opened, 2014 end, it was important to have all this drama, tableside theatrics, molecular gastronomy. Since then, Farzi Cafe has done a 180 in the sense that with the cycle of things, the term molecular gastronomy has been, in a way, bastardized. People are not using it to the full potential. They're just using, some of this drama, but not to effect. They're doing it as a theatrical thing, not really helping the dish itself. So, like I said, the tableside drama has diminished, but people still love some form of interesting action, dynamism. The correct word would be dynamism happening around their food. I think people enjoy that, but it's lost its importance. It's not important anymore to get eyeballs. I think the only one thing that'll forever work for a restaurant and for it to grow organically is word of mouth. And that is the holy grail.
And
That is
that
the culmination
comes
culmination of everything.
So things have to be remarkable, right? People have to find something to be able to remark about.
It's
right?
very organic.
So
Cannot be pushed.
while you can remove the bells and whistles from there's no need to basically send a post box with a burger inside or put a drink in a bird cage or whatever. All that is I think that is not. But having good theatre is very important, right? So how a great maitre d', for example, is phenomenal for a restaurant, right?
It's worth their weight in gold.
Something that'll get the remarkable thing going where they will feel the need to actually tell their friend that this is what they've experienced.
I think if you
and
have a
without which
really
your day
good
is not
meal or
good.
experience somewhere, you want to share it with your friends, right? Like you go out, you have a great meal, someone's asking you for a recommendation, where should I go? So I
But
went
things like
there.
referrals don't work.
They do. Referrals will work.
Like incentivizing
If they're coming from a clean
referrals.
space, if they seem motivated, then they're not going to work. But people are smart enough to realize that. Word of mouth is not a simple thing. It's a culmination of 100 different things. Service, the temperature, the quality of the napkin, the tableware, the food, the drink, how soft were people. There's a big difference between service and hospitality. Service is simply the aspect of taking a drink and putting it on the table. Hospitality dictates how you made that patron feel. And I think that's a very big thing. And this is something that, I think arguably the greatest restaurateur in the world has been harping on about for years, in his new book, Unreasonable Hospitality, talks about it, but it's something very deep.
What is the name of that book? Everybody should read.
Unreasonable Hospitality. It talks exactly about this.
I think the question is, how do you get that? How do you get people to talk about it? Like
the culmination of all of this.
This is a great restaurant. Everything is fantastic. But what is that one thing that...
There is no one thing.
No, there is. There can be. There can be. That, like I said...
That builds word of mouth? It could be a single dish.
There's so many restaurants I go to for one dish.
One dish.
One dish, yeah.
And that one dish is enough, sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm saying when you talk
there
about...
are restaurants which have built their entire... For generations have survived on one dish.
How important is a chef? And because he becomes so cardinal to the business, how do you maintain the right bond where you don't A, lead him on, or B, put him in a position of power if you're a restaurant owner, that he can leave and kill the restaurant if he likes? How do you negotiate chef relationships? Hacks.
I mean,
You are the chef.
I am the chef, so...
If you were to franchise and have another chef, or if you were to open a branch and have another chef, what do you think you would do?
Honestly, I think it's... and I've seen this with friends with different restaurants where the chef was the main ingredient and then moved on, and the restaurants continue to do really well, doing better after they've gone.
And in some cases not.
In some cases not. I just feel that it's... for me, it would just be... It's more about the product than the chef. I think...
I think that... I think we've all had experiences where we've put our faith in chefs and we've nurtured them and we've given them everything that they've asked for. And at some point of time, they've gone looking for a better opportunity for a few. I think that sometimes that does break your heart. I think sometimes that does make you feel that, you know what, screw that, I'm not going to do a chef-based restaurant again. But sometimes when you can really, really, really know how to handle the diva and make the diva really perform to the best of their capabilities, there's a different magic in that. So again, depending on the kind of restaurant you want to do, there are some restaurants where people are going to come and they will kiss the ring of the chef because that is what they're coming for, and some they will come for the brand. And I think that if you've decided to work with a chef who is a diva, like a virtuoso, a savant in respect, then you will have to be able to be sensitive to their sensitivities.
So actually, when I had the Kalra Cafe, I had a friend of mine who was Colombian and came to work as the head chef. And a lot of it was driven by him. The place became about him. And a lot of the people that came for him. And then when he left, I was in that position where I was like, oh my God, are people going to come back? But in fact, our sales just grew after. So I feel like it's, it's kind of funny in that manner.
Yeah,
where if you...
It is bittersweet.
Yeah.
I think when it's symbiotic, it's beautiful. But I think that no one organization or one person is bigger than the sum of the parts.
Yeah.
I think that.
Okay, guys, staffing. Where do you hire restaurant staff from? And is there anything in particular you can do to retain that staff? Are there any hacks in this industry? Riyaaz, you want to go first?
I think that we have, fortunately, I think word of mouth as a good employer is very, very important. Referrals for us are the number one recruitment source. We encourage our staff to bring us more staff. That is the surest and fastest way of getting good quality people. Of course, you need to have a robust training program. You need to know, okay, what do you want to put somebody on the floor? What can you do to get them on the floor? What are the basic skills they need? I am not a big believer in education. I think it's completely a waste of time in the hospitality business.
When you say education, you mean?
Any kind of degree in the hospitality industry.
Thanks.
Sorry. It's my sorry. No, sorry.
I think he means for front of house staff.
No, I don't mean for chefs. FCI, NCI, and Kordumru, of course, bring a certain sensibility. But when it comes to general staff, we are really not looking at the institutions. We're looking more at the pedigree of the institutions that they've worked at. Because then you can really tell, where they're going to come from. That OCLD, which is the Oberoi School of Learning and Development, pass out is going to be of a certain cut.
So firstly, I think you select people. You should hire people that get pleasure in giving others pleasure.
How do you do that?
It is absolutely based on a good talent acquirer.
Who do you use?
We have in-house. We have, obviously, we use, the talent acquirer uses portals and uses, number one thing is always going to be referral.
You said your headhunters hire from portals.
No, not even
stuff.
headhunters. So we call them talent acquirers. So they use a multitude of things. I think the number one method is always going to be, like you said, referrals. Because these are people that have already seen the work culture. They've seen how it is to work in that particular position. What are the benefits, etc. Right? And that's what is our number one methodology. But having a good talent acquirer who is able to ensure that the tick marks are ticked in a certain kind of person. Like I said, a person who gets pleasure by giving pleasure, I think, a person who feels happiness when he gives pleasure to others. I think that's a very, very good, virtue to have in a person.
Is there a mechanism to do that? Like if I have to hire 100 people and there is a filter I want to put in place.
It's interview process. You have to call them over. You have to meet them. You have to figure out if they fit within the culture of your organization.
And how do you keep them?
Keeping is the harder part.
Benefits?
No. Approachability and accessibility.
To yourself.
If you're HR, it'll be hard for the founder of the company to do that. If you have an HR and a management system, a hierarchy, not just at the HR level, but also at the restaurant level, that is highly accessible and approachable, then that'll have a huge impact in making sure that your retention rates are high. Now, typically in the QSR, the retention rates, in fact, the attrition rates are over 100%. So you're talking about 120% attrition, which means more people in a year, in a set finite period, leave the organization than actually join. Whereas in the CDR space, if you're at between 30-40%, it's good. So I think just be there for them, have policies that are empathetic, have a listening ear, have an HR and a management system within the restaurants. The first port of call is always going to be the manager. There has to be some basic empathy training with the managers. They have to have, they have to also be able to impart culture. I think building culture is more difficult than building competence. You can build competence into a person. If they're not trained, you can train them. How are you going to build culture? That comes through concerted effort from every level of hierarchy.
Pooja?
When I started, it was basically just getting people from, again, referrals, started with a small team, trained them. And then as we started growing, it was through agencies that specialize in hospitality graduates. Also, schools are a great
Which agency is good? Who do you use?
There are a couple, not sure of their names exactly.
You don't get front of house staff though.
No. But for kitchen and stuff, for us as well, like just going directly to schools and recruiting directly.
That helps.
Yeah?
Calm.com is
Naukri.com is great.
Naukri.com and Calm.com is specializing in
hospitality.
Hospitality.
Is that who you use?
I do use Calm.com.
And for us, LinkedIn works really well.
LinkedIn does work well.
Okay. Next question.
And
there's a new one that's come out. There's a new one that's come out by
Rashmi
Udesi called Hospitality Hope, which is really good. So
it's a website?
Yeah, it's a website started
fairly
by
new.
Rashmi
very,
Udesi.
very good.
Database.
That is the best. That's
actually the best.
She's not taking a single rupee. She's doing this, as her
Rashmi Udesi, she's a very prolific writer.
And she's getting really good
Fabulous.
talent hooked up with international restaurants of real good repute. So Hospitality Hope, if you're looking to go abroad, much to our detriment, Hospitality Hope is the place. But I'm just saying that you cannot retain everybody. Right? And I know that always in the hospitality business is the best server who will have the drinking problem, or is the guy who's going to go and disappear for days on end, not show up. But you have to be able to recognize them first. And once you recognize them, you got to reward them. And then the way to retain them is to tell them that, look, we see you, we've spotted you, we are going to put you on a track, we're going to put you on a journey. 3 years from now, this is where you're going to be. 5 years from now, this is where you're going to be, and you stick with us 7 years from now, that's where you're going to be.
Is that the
then,
key?
And then deliver.
Showing them a path of growth.
You have to show them, and you have to show them a part of growth, because otherwise there will always be ifs, buts.
Is it primarily financial growth, or is it a growth of stature?
It is both. It is both. It is a growth in your designation as well as growth in salary.
What is a bigger trigger emotionally?
Look, emotionally, having the designation of a manager is a big deal. Having the designation of an executive or executive is a big deal. Right? People want that. They want to be able to know that they are, in a position of authority. But at the end of the day, that doesn't fill your stomach alone. You need to be able to have cash. Service charge goes a very long way in making sure that we can retain our talent, ensuring that, it's distributed. They benefit from the company. That builds teamwork in. As Zorawar said, a very strong culture really, really helps, because they know that this is a family and this collective responsibility, you can't let each other down. So these things cumulatively add up. But at the end of the day, this is what I've learned from the Shetties and the UDP restaurant.
I'm from there, by the way.
So that is, you cannot break a Shetty restaurant guy. Why? Because he knows his dishwashing today, if he puts his nose to the ground, if he does the hard yards, 10 years from now, he will be managing his own restaurant. 15 years from now, he'll be a partner. He knows it. And they have a beautiful system where they send money home to the wives and to the mothers. They take care of the kids' education. They take care of all their medical needs. These guys are given a place to stay and a little bit of pocket money. But this system is fantastic. And there's a lot to learn. But the important thing is that a clear path, career path, is given to them. And if you do this, and if you stay this long, this is where you will go. And that is good enough for them. It is the uncertainty of that progression, uncertainty of where they will be a couple of years from now is what causes unrest, in my opinion.
Makes sense. Festivals, seasonal stuff. If I were to be starting a restaurant today as a 22-year-old, how do I incorporate that into my business planning? Is it a big part?
For us, yes.
Christmas, Diwali?
Yeah, so we start with, for us, season actually starts in September. August actually. Start with Rakhi, and then you go to Ganpati. At least in Bombay, you have Ganpati. Then you have Diwali, then you have Christmas, then you have Valentine's Day, and then you have Holi. And then after that, it's a little bit of a slow. And then this whole season is also the big season for like weddings, parties, people are doing caterings. So we do a lot of that. And then April to July is kind of like a little bit slow. So we have to figure out what we do during those months. So seasonality, at least with us, is quite important.
And for you guys as well, it's a big thing?
Seasonality? So there are two different things. One is, I think your question was also regarding festivities, right? India is a deeply spiritual country. There are many festivals that happen that have a direct impact on the business of your restaurant or delivery service. For example, you have Ganpati in Bombay. When you have Ganpati in Bombay, you're going to see a reduction in dining out. You're going to see a reduction in non-veg consumption. You're going to see a reduction in alcohol consumption. People are going to not go out as much. When you have Navratra in North India, you have a major reduction in the number of people going out. Non-veg consumption goes down very sharply, right? So I think there are two different things. Seasonality affects everybody equally. Festivals affect certain kinds of restaurants. A vegetarian restaurant would be less impacted during Navratras in North India, whereas a non-veg restaurant or a bar would get more deeply impacted. These are just the realities of being in the country. You have to mitigate this by, in a sense, planning in advance, coming up with special things like a Navratra Thali or better offers, better deals during these specific times.
And these tiny things can significantly throw up revenues, right?
They can mitigate. I don't think they can completely resolve the impact or completely absorb the impact. They definitely can mitigate to a large extent, and it's just the reality of being in a country like India where there are festivals that have a huge impact on the socio-economic fabric that will have an impact on your business directly. And as a result, you're going to have to mitigate in some way, shape or form.
Okay, so at the end of this podcast, did I miss anything, guys?
I think, but firstly, you've covered everything. This is a crash course in restauranting. Took us years to do this. You
I want to
just gave
start
everybody the
something
lowdown. I think you can charge a lot of money for this podcast if you were to monetize it.
7-hour podcast.
At
My
the end
God,
of
7
this-
hours?
7
Nahin,
hours?
nahin. 7 hours?
Okay, 6
6
hours.
hours.
At the end of
Yeah, yaar. I didn't realize.
Listen.
अब आप मुझे बाहर भी नहीं देखा सकते आपका शेयर 12 बजे बंद हो जाता है.
We had great keema.
We
We
raged.
had the
We
best
raged
burger
for another
ever.
2 hours and then I
we
go to the
had some
airport
amazing
straight.
macarons with some amazing coffee.
Can we
He danced?
please talk about that?
I am
Please.
not-
You
Can we
have,
plug
I
in
will
a part
talk
of the
about
video?
you have
Plug it
to.
in, plug it in. Plug it the
We
one
have-
where I'm looking good.
We have to talk about this.
Yeah, we are talking about it, the recording.
Are we done?
No, no such thing.
Jhalak dikhla ja, my God.
Okay, do you still dance
So I dance extremely poorly.
on TV?
I don't know how I
On
was able to
national
swim-
TV.
On national. So I'll tell you what I learned out of this whole thing.
Wait, before you tell me what you learned out of it, what made you do it?
My wife. My son was adamant against it because he thought my being on that show and being the foolish dancer that I am will make a fool out of him in his school. My wife said, you've always been the kind of guy who's taken on these kind of tough things that you're not comfortable with, things that are out of your comfort zone. That's the only reason I did it. The obviously other reason was to be on a large scale TV show. Let's be very honest about it. By being on that show, and I hadn't done MasterChef. I had done MasterChef in 2016, so several years. I'd done other stuff, but not of relevance. This was a fairly large show. I took it on as a challenge. I even now don't know how to dance well, but I had the best choreographer who put her life energy into me. She tried her best. And the only reason I survived almost half that show was because I felt a sense of responsibility towards Suchitra. So big shout out to Suchitra. You're like a rock star. I love you. I'm going to see you in Bombay very soon. She's my sister. She and her husband were my choreographers. They were the wind beneath my wings, literally. And they were able to extract something out of me that I simply did not know I had. And to this day, I think it's simply a testament to her efforts, number one, and B, my ability to not give a damn.
Nice. I think that's the
beautiful.
coolest thing, not
That's
giving a
beautiful.
damn.
That's beautiful.
Right?
Absolutely. I won't have the
No will I.
balls.
Petrified of...
I'll do it.
You would.
I'll do it.
Natural, yeah, you do it. You're natural. You're doing MasterChef. Listen, it proves it.
Okay, so this show is meant solely as an exercise in education for entrepreneurs. We've all been lucky to help other
wood.
people be in the right position to get lucky. We build this content and you know, thank you guys for flying down to Bangalore and spending the amount of time you have. I think this will be incredibly useful to so many young people who want to start a restaurant. Another thing we do is we don't have any sponsors, we don't do any advertising, and at the end of every show we try and do, should I call it a good deed? I don't know, but we kind of like do something to pass the baton along and help somebody else. In the last episode, for example, we decided to fund a young entrepreneur trying to build a business in fashion or in cosmetics or in home decor who's under the age of 20 to 23. So I'd like to suggest that we come together and fund a young boy or girl, which we will all pick together. We'll open out applications and you'll get thousands of them.
What fun.
And we will fund someone who's unlikely to get funding otherwise, let's say below the age of 22.
Done.
Yeah?
Cheers to that.
Yeah.
You know,
Let's do
count
this.
me in.
Yeah. And the only thing I would ask so that we can put it out is there an amount of money you would like to allocate to that young individual so we can put it out and we can get applications?
Definitely happy to help, some young restaurateur to get their feet off the ground, make sure they have a safe landing, point them in the right direction.
And mentor outside
And
of
mentor.
money.
Yeah.
Guide.
Yeah. All of that.
Yeah.
All of that.
My Instagram
What do you think is a
my
good amount?
Instagram
What do you
page is
think?
open.
I'm not allowed to invest in other restaurants.
I don't think
In
you
my
should
personal
consider it
capacity,
investment.
in my
I know,
personal
I'm just
capacity,
Not allowed to do that. Sorry.
Any amount. Amount doesn't
yeah,
matter.
I'm okay.
Time.
Whatever you
I'm
suggest.
feeling very happy.
What are you looking for? I'm in.
Should we do, say, young kid starting a restaurant, how much money would he need? 50 lakhs enough to give a moonshot together?
Yeah. 50 lakhs, he won't be able to build a big restaurant, to be very honest.
Okay.
Why not
higher?
look at even a cloud kitchen potential?
Yeah. Should we
Or
do
a
20?
restaurant's going to cost more than that.
क्यों जिंदगी खराब कर
Restaurant's going to cost a lot.
Okay, I'll do, let me start it off and say I'll do 25 lakhs.
Okay.
You guys can tell me an amount. It doesn't have to be big or small, just something. Random number. We'll sum it up and we'll find a kid.
I'm very happy to mentor as much as I can. I'm not physically allowed to invest in other
I'm not
businesses.
physically allowed to invest, but I'm going to personally, perhaps in my personal capacity, do it, and I'll give about 15.
Yeah.
10.
Okay, 50.
That's
So-
50.
And we will mentor him with time, and I have less to add here, but you guys have so much skill set in this. But it'll be an interesting project. We'll find this one young, talented kid.
Absolutely.
And we'll see what we can make of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Sounds
Great.
good.
Which, according to you, which will go best?
With your coffee?
Yeah. Passion fruit है ना?
Passion fruit I don't have, but the sea salt will go really well.
हाँ, वैसे, but tequila and
Like a margarine,
salt. Or citrus one. Like a
This
lemon.
one, yeah, the sea salt will go really well. Then not lavender, not rose.
I have a question. Why do I have one macaron less?
Sure.
They thought you needed one less.
Okay, come on, start.
Zorawar.
No.
He's never been afraid of
But don't make me dance.
challenges.
So we're gonna make you touch one item and tell us what it is, smell one item and tell us what it is, and taste one item and tell us what it is. While you're blindfolded.
Really weird, but okay.
This one you just smell.
Oh my God, smells like achar. Mirchi ka achar, I don't know. Mirchi ka achar.
My God.
It is mirchi ka achar? You're kidding me. It's like a biscuit or something. Or broke, it's a biscuit. It's a biscuit. I don't know. Parle G, I don't know. Yeah, is it?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah.
Kidding me.
Okay.
Did you make a cheesecake with it?
I make a cheesecake out of Parle G at Farzi Cafe.
Okay. And the last one you have to taste.
he can see, guys. He can
Taste
see.
is easy for
he
me.
He can see.
You can eat that.
Kit Kat. Taste is my speciality.
Not bad.
Citronella?
Rose water.
Rose water.
Why was it?
ये rose water नहीं है. ये chance नहीं है rose water.
Water, dude.
I will lose everything with rose water.
Okay, taste.
Taste. It better not be a grasshopper or something.
It's red ants.
Oh, that's slimy. Ew. Ah. Does it have batteries?
Why can't he eat it?
Bear?
Bro, come on, man. Bro, come on.
Holding it in
Banana, man.
Every time you
bring
said Indian, I was drinking.
Gee, so weird. What is that? Is that an insect?
Is it like
Are they baby cockroach? No.
anar?
Yeah,
No, not bad.
got it.
Pomegranate. Elaichi.
You're giving her all ingredients she uses. You know that, right?
Every day.
You have to taste.
Did I say that?
Yeah, you have to taste it.
You're giving me like imli.
Imli ki chutney.
Nice.
Both of us got all three. Can I go
I'll
and
do
take
it
your
in 1
bathroom
second. Give me. Oh, I
Just
can't.
smell.
Cinnamon.
Not bad. Okay, taste this.
If you guys have
Drink
given
it,
me
drink it,
something
drink it,
weird,
drink
no,
it.
see
Drink it.
tomorrow. Lemon. You perverted.
Welcome to F&B.
Action.
1 second. Hold on. Okay. Hey guys. I know this is not Nikhil, okay? But we put in a lot of effort for this show. For you guys to watch it for free. And you guys don't even subscribe to it. इतना सीख रहे हो free में. Subscribe तो कर ही दो. Such a great team we have. We have Meghna, we have Vivek, we have Khagendra, we have Ali, and we have Rudra.
Hi.
These guys make the food. He takes care of the logistics. These guys are the backbone of the entire thing. And then there's just me imitating Nikhil.
Dhanya and Abid, who are not here,
Yeah.
but who also help a lot.
Also, वो जो खाना आप देखते हैं ना, everybody loves the food.
Yeah.
So we have Khagendra and Ali doing that. तो please उनको बोल दो कि subscribe करें.
सब्सक्राइब करें सब
और लाइक फॉलो सब करिए.
Come on. 3, 2.
It's 3 a.m.
You gotta subscribe.